Good evening and welcome to the Forsgren City Board of Directors regular meeting on this November 19th, 2024. Keep in mind these meetings are being televised for the benefit of our residents who cannot be here in person. Okay. At this time, we will ask Director Settle, would you mind doing the invocation? Director Neil Martin, and then you can do the pledge. Okay, thank you.
Join me in prayer. Father, we are thankful to be here tonight. Thank you for the opportunity that you've given us. And Lord, I pray that you would be amongst us tonight. Lord, I pray that wisdom would reign. I pray that your spirit would hover over us and give us wisdom to make the right decisions that affect the city of Fort Smith. Lord, we know that you've established what we're doing here tonight. And so, Father, we give you honor and glory for it. I pray for each one of those that are in the audience tonight, Lord. I pray that we would all have a spirit of unity around what we're doing, all for the betterment of our city and glory to you. So, Father, I pray you be with us tonight. Be with each one of these directors, Lord. I pray that we treat each other well. And, Lord, I just pray that you would just guide us in our thoughts, in our actions, in our words. Father, we love you. And we thank you, and we ask these things in your precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Director Martin, for the prayer, and Director Settle for leading the pledge. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Directors Rigo.
Here.
Good.
Here.
Morton.
Here.
George Katsavas.
Here.
Christina Katsavas.
Here.
Settle.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I'll ask if there's any board member that has an item of business not already on the agenda. Thank you. This time, we'll ask for approval of the November 6, 2024 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. This time we're going to go to our Deputy Administrator for the first item on the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 1 is a public hearing and ordinance certifying to the Sebastian County Tax Collector this year's delinquent property cleanup liens. City Clerk Sherry Gard will speak to the details of this item.
Good evening. The attached ordinance certifies to the Sebastian County Tax Collector a total of $137,220.45 in delinquent property cleanup liens associated with properties abated or structures demolished in the city of Fort Smith, which were 90 days delinquent as of June 30 of 2024. Upon approval, each lien will be assessed a 10% penalty. The ordinance contains 273 delinquent liens consisting of 184 properties owned by 171 property owners, 52 of which have been included in previous year's ordinances, thereby identified as a habitual offender. In 2023, the proposed ordinance included 252 delinquent liens totaling $99,520.29 for certification to the county for collection. However, this year's certification has increased, as you can see. The Property Owners Appeal Board, as required by the Fort Smith Municipal Code, did hold 2 public hearings on 2 separate evenings in September the 9th and September 11th. There were no property owners in attendance at the September 11, 24 appeal hearing. However, there were 2 property owners in attendance at the September 9 meeting or public hearing, whereby one property owner, Mr. Larry Smithson, did not formally appeal the lien. However, he merely addressed the board and extended a check for payment in full of that lien. The second property owner, Ms. Sherilyn Dobbins, extended a formal appeal, but the property owner did not grant any adjustment. Due to such, Ms. Dobbins went ahead and provided a check that evening as well. For this evening's public hearing, which is required by law, the notice was provided to property owners either by certified mail or publication in the River Valley Democrat Gazette on 4 consecutive weeks prior to this meeting tonight. In the event the property owner did not attend the Property Owners Appeal Board hearings in September, Staff recommends that any subject lien, anyone that is here to appeal, if they did not attend that September meeting, we do recommend that you either consider the appeal this evening, or you can refer it back to the Property Owners Appeal Board, and they will consider that at their regularly scheduled meeting on December the 9th, on Monday at 11 o'clock. Depending on what the Property Owners Appeal Board determines, if they determine that it is due in full, then we can present another ordinance at the December 17th meeting to certify that those liens to the tax collector. Each year, the city clerk's office continues to receive payments for liens included on the certification ordinance. Therefore, it's requested that the motion to adopt include a provision to allow us to either adjust for a partial payment or remove a lien in the event that lien is paid in full, and that would be done up until the formal submission to the Sebastian County Tax Collector, which is usually done that first week in January. Let's see. Several members of the Property Owners Appeal Board are in attendance if you have any questions. And one more thing that I would like to note, which was included in your board packet, in 2024 through January through November, in 2024, we have exceeded, and this is the highest amount of annual distribution we have ever received. We have received to date $143,370.84 compared to last year's total for the January through December of $112,000. So the process is working, and for in the spreadsheet within the board packet, I did provide. We started it in 20,000. The spreadsheet contains information from 2007 on, with the amount that we have received to date and the amount that we have certified. We are receiving about a little over 61% in revenue on that.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we will formally open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, are there any citizens' comments on this item?
Yes, we do have individuals, the first being Mr. Don Plumley.
Mr. Plumley, you're recognized. You're recognized to speak.
Yes, sir. I'm here to appeal and object to the lien being placed on my property. And to do that, I've actually drafted a complaint, and I actually have a copy for everybody, if I can give it to the clerk and have her distribute it.
Yes. Okay.
And the purpose of this is to point out the fact of conspiracy to commit fraud, because the lien that was placed on that property was done in the fraudulent means. They inflated the charges on it, and it was documented on video. And in this complaint, there's multiple other items of which I am pursuing, and this is your proper notice that I am about to file a lawsuit. And I'm giving you the opportunity in order to have this matter resolved, and I'll give you till Monday around noon. And with that, I yield the rest of my time.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, are there any other citizens' comments?
Yes, we have one, Miss Dana Killian.
I was just coming in they said I had called them. I guess I missed the 2 meetings in September, so they said that they would send a packet or something, but I had to be here today I guess a packet to object to it or whatever. I don't know.
Do you know who gave you that information?
Huh?
Do you know who gave you that information?
No. Whoever I called at the city the other day.
Okay.
Well, you have the right to appeal to the Board of Directors. There's no packet.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what the lady said. I don't know. I don't know what to do. This is my first lien I ever
Okay.
got.
And I will state that Sean Gard, Director of Neighborhood Services, is available if you have any questions. And these 2 individuals did advise that they would be in attendance, and I did email you that information this afternoon.
Okay. Sean, do you have any comments at all?
Board administration, I'll give Ms. Killian my card.
Okay.
And then have her contact my office, and maybe we can get her scheduled for the December 9th meeting to go before the Property Appeals Board meeting, if that's okay.
If the board so desires, you can refer these matters back to the Property Owners Appeal Board, and if so, if your motion to adopt the ordinance, you could go ahead and remove those two properties. And I do have those properties denoted in your email.
Okay.
And you can remove those from the ordinance if you so choose.
We're not there yet.
We'll finish and then we'll let you, I think I got you, Jess. Okay, are there any other citizens' comments, Madam Clerk?
None indicated.
Okay, at this time, we'll formally close the public hearing. And this time, we will entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance with suspension of the rules, with the exception of the two items on the agenda. Did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you need a motion for that? Or
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the items on the agenda or in the ordinance with the exception of the two mentioned here tonight,
Okay.
with suspension of the rules as well.
Second.
Okay.
And with the provision, with the permission to remove any partial,
Yes.
remove any payments in full or partial payments for adjustment.
Yes, with that provision to permit adjustments for partial payments or liens paid in full prior to formal submission to the Sebastian County Tax Collector.
And just, if I could, just for record-keeping purposes, Mr. Plumley was speaking on the property at 1710 Carthage, and Ms. Killian was speaking for the property located at 902 South J Street.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and we did have a second, right?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance.
An ordinance certifying to the Sebastian County Tax Collector delinquent property cleanup liens.
Okay, thank you very much. This time we'll entertain any comments from the board. Director LeVon Morton.
So my question is on the rather large amounts showing up compared to the others for Fort Smith cemeteries. Is that the monthly cleanup of the cemetery properties that we briefly alluded to back when we were talking about an appropriation for them?
The increased amount on coming in, and Jeff could probably handle that better than me. That's not included in our normal abatement fees that we're doing right now. That's our normal abatements we do on a yearly basis, and that's the increase that we've seen.
Well, they're on here 12 times. Is that
Okay.
so? There's something, or 11 times. Or is there something every month?
Well, is that over? I don't have that information in front of me right now, and but with the cemeteries that we done, it spanned from March through October for 2023 and 2024.
Okay. Okay.
If I could add, these liens are for cleanings that took place in 2023.
Right.
Okay, but like it's every month. There are 12 of them, so.
Well, there was 2 abatements per month, Director.
Oh, I see.
So with the cemeteries and with the weather that we'd had, especially in 2023, it didn't take long for them to get out of control. So King Irrigation abated those each cemetery twice a month.
So what are the prospects? I mean, I can't recall. Are we paying that now? Are we paying for King to do that going forward?
No, we're finished that. We're finished with it completely, Director.
Okay, very
I think
good.
we
That's
did.
all I have.
I think we did pay for it. I
Pardon
think
me?
we did pay
We
for this year.
right. And I was thinking we signed them up
Right.
for this year, right?
With the hope that with a plan for remediation for that next year.
Yeah. We've been in contact with the cemetery, and we've asked them to provide us with their plan of action for next year, so the city will not have to bear this burden anymore.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is anything further?
Okay. I think that's it. So no further comments from the board. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Directors Arrigo?
Yes.
Good?
Yes.
Morton?
Yes.
George Katsavas?
Yes.
Christina Katsavas?
yes,
Settle?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
It's approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay. Item 2.
Item 2 is an ordinance setting the date, time, and location for regular meetings of the Board of Directors for the year 2025. City Clerk will speak to this item as well.
Yes, this was reviewed at the November 12th study session, and this ordinance essentially sets your regular meetings for 2025 for the first and third Tuesday of each month, with the exception of July. and October, of which those will be held on July the 8th and July 22nd. And in October, they will be held on October the 14th and October the 21st. And that is because in July, the board has opted not to meet during the week of the 4th of Independence Day, and then also the first week of October for National Night Out.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any citizens' comments on the calendar?
None indicating.
This time we entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance with suspension of the rules.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Please read the ordinance.
It's an ordinance setting the dates, time, and location for regular meetings of the Board of Directors for the year 2025.
Thank you. Are there any board comments on the calendar? Okay. Call the roll, please.
Directors Good,
Yes.
Morton,
I recognize that I won't be a director at any of these meetings. However, I do vote yes because I know the city has to adopt this. I vote yes.
George Katsavas.
Yes.
Christina Katsavas,
yes,
Settle,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Rigo.
Yes.
It's approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, thank you. Item 3.
This item is an ordinance to provide for rates for services of the drinking water system and superseding ordinances in conflict. Director of Water Utilities, Lance McAvoy, will address this item.
Good evening. At the November 12th Board of Directors study session, Directors Rigo and Morton placed for this meeting a rate ordinance that would remove first the 4th tier residential water rate tier volume and set the irrigation rate at the same as the 3rd tier, which is $5.26 per CCF. In your packet is a redlined version of what changed. This would go into effect December 1, which would be billed in January. That allows time for all the computer changes that need to be made for the billing to be properly done, and we have met what was requested. I'll stand for questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any citizens' comments, Madam Clerk?
Yes, we have 2, the first being Andy Postrick.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. My name is Andy Postrick. I love living in Fort Smith. I've been following the water rates discussion since the beginning, and recently I really appreciate the conversations in the last couple meetings. We had adults in the room talking it out, and you gave it a lot of good attention, and I appreciate that. I guess I've been out. I had surgery, so I haven't been able to participate as much. But one thing that I wanted to ask, and maybe this is a question for the consultant. Last week, somebody asked, well, why do these other cities have a different cost of delivery? And there was some hemming and hawing, but ultimately the answer came down to the amount of pipes that the cities have. It's not the number of customers, it's not the number of water leaks, it's not population density. None of these things affect the cost of delivery. So if cost of delivery is based on how much pipe there is, why are we charging for people based on what the water is being used for, whether it's irrigation or residential or anything like that? Could we capture that cost of pipe into the cost structure in the first place, so we don't have that sort of billing incongruity where certain use types are being billed different rates? It seems arbitrary to me. That was sort of a question, if anybody has any thoughts about that, or is that something that we can ask the consultant? I know it's not something that we can resolve tonight, but it's sort of a long-term question I've been wondering.
Okay. Director LaVon Morton.
In the material that was presented by our consultant when we discussed this, he pointed out that Fort Smith had many years ago adopted a tiered system. So if you use a very low amount of water, it costs less than if you use higher amounts. And that's, as I recall, it's not exactly, but more or less a 50-50 split in cities throughout the United States that have a flat rate versus a tiered system. This is just the system we have, and we've chosen to stick with it. And one of the things that we always have to keep in mind, there was an excellent piece of information in Talk Business and Politics this week, and their written version on the internet that said that the per capita income in 2023 for Fort Smith was $47,000 approximately, and that's up 3.1% compared to 22. For the state of Arkansas in general, and Fort Smith was 47. The state of Arkansas in general, it was 57, which is up 4.2. The United States, it was about 70,000 per capita, up 5.4%. And so I think we always, and I commend the board for this, we always try to keep in mind that there are a number of low-income individuals in the city who benefit from that tiered system. And I would, the thing I would add, that's the reason why, continuing with what we've done for many years, but I would also say that the rate for Van Buren, I believe, is a flat rate of $5.76 per CCF, which is higher than our highest rate. And for Greenwood, it is $5.98 per CCF, which is again higher than our highest tier in Fort Smith. So that's an attempt at an answer.
And Andy, I think we ought to look at alternatives to a better way of billing. So I think some of your ideas are very good. I think we need to explore some of those.
May I have additional time just for a comment in response?
You recognize, go ahead.
Thank you. In regards to those other cities, though, like they're further away, so it costs us more to deliver water to them. So I don't think it's fair that I think they should pay more because it costs us more to deliver the water to them.
Well, remember in Van Buren, they hail the water from the point that it transfers to their
Maybe
pipe.
not Van Buren.
Yeah, Van Buren, it's all their internal system, which their costs may be different than ours. Greenwood doesn't get water from Fort Smith, and whatever system they get it from, that's what they base it on. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Okay.
Next, we have Joe Elskin.
I wanted to speak to approve that you all do some more research. And also, besides what you're doing in research, I would encourage you to do some education and maybe some nudging of people to be more sustainable in their water use, to be more conservative in their water use. Your tier one, I mean, not your tier one, your, what is it, level one, phase one water conservation practices. I think a lot of people could use those if they were encouraged and educated about the value of that. You know, I did have a neighbor that washed the streets every day, you know, watering their lawn. And I feel like that was a lack of knowledge of the what we're doing with our water bill, what we're doing with our water. And also heat and drought resistant plantings, if we encouraged that, then we would have more money, hopefully, for water infrastructure. I mean, conservation, sustainable use of things is just, to me, the future, something that we need to work on. So I just wanted to encourage that education and gentle nudging. Thank you for what you do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joe.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. A point of housekeeping. We have this cute gadget up here. Madam Clerk, would you explain this to those who may not understand what it is?
Oh, did I go over?
No, that is a timer for speakers. That, I believe it goes yellow at 30 seconds, and then it starts flashing, I believe, at 10. So.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, at this time, we entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance with suspension of the rules.
So moved with suspension of the rules. Second.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please read the ordinance.
Ordinance to provide for rates for services of the drinking water system and superseding ordinances in conflict therewith.
Any comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Directors Morton,
yes.
George Katsavas.
Yes.
Christina Katsavas.
yes,
Settle.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Rigo.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
It's approved. 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Thank you. At this time, we entertain a motion to adopt the emergency clause.
So moved.
Second,
Please call the roll.
Directors George Katsavas.
Yes.
Christina Katsavas.
Yes.
Settle.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Rego.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Morton.
Yes.
It's approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, this time we'll go to item number 4.
Mayor, based on the city administrator's emails in the packet tonight, I make a motion to table this indefinitely.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table item number 4.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Well, why are we tabling this again?
City administrator requested it.
Well, I know he requested it, but
I'm just going to.
this is the third time we tabled this.
Maybe him and Steve don't have the agreement done. I don't know.
I think he's still working with the county judge on this thing.
Well, I got a bad feeling about this. I do whatever. I'll do whatever.
Okay. Okay. We've got a motion and a second.
Take the vote.
Yeah, we need a vote.
And to clarify, this is to table indefinitely.
Yes.
Directors Christina Katsavas.
Wait, point of order. Table indefinitely means
It goes away.
It can't be brought back up?
The administrator of the board can bring it back at a later date,
Sure.
but this kills it
It
indefinitely.
takes it off the
For the
table
Just
moment.
tonight,
until they bring it back.
until the board or the administrator brings it back?
That's correct.
Okay, that's the board's discretion.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Directors Christina Katsavas.
To be clear, this is on a motion to table?
Yes.
To table indefinitely.
No.
Settle.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Rego.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Morton.
Yes.
George Katsavas.
No.
Motion passes 5 in favor and 2 opposed.
Okay, item 5.
This item is an amendment to the Convention Center Management Agreement with OVG Facilities regarding off-site catering services related to events at the Convention Center. This item was discussed at the October 29th study session and then tabled the item to this agenda. Directing staff to consider language to emphasize that the off-site catering events must directly support events at the Convention Center. The language in the agreement was modified. It's on page 44 of your packet. And the OVG Facilities has agreed to the additional language. I will answer any questions from the board regarding this item.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any citizens' comments on this item?
None indicating.
Okay, this time we'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board? Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Settle.
Yes.
Martin.
No.
Rego.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Morton.
Yes.
George Katsavas.
Yes.
Christina Katsavas.
No.
Motion passes 5 in favor and 2 opposed.
Thank you. We'll go to item number 6.
Item 6 is a resolution ratifying and approving memorandums of agreement with Arkansas Department of Energy and Environment, Metroplan, and Northwest Arkansas Planning Commission, and actions taken related to thereto that are related to the city's participation in the EPA's Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. Director of Sustainability and Citizen Services, Joshua Robertson, is present to speak to this item and respond to questions from the board.
Thank you, Deputy City Administrator. Good evening, Board. The purpose of this resolution is to secure the Board's approval to ratify the city's memorandums of agreement with the Arkansas Department of Energy and Environment, Metroplan, and Northwest Arkansas Planning Commission, affirming the city's commitment to the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant, also known as CPRG. The State Office of Energy and Environment, with the approval of the Governor's Office, submitted the application for the CPRG planning funds in February of 23. The city sent a notice of intent in April of 2023 to participate in the CPRG program. The state was awarded the grant and then passed it on to the three largest MSAs in the state, so the metropolitan statistical areas, which led to the city receiving over $440,000 in regional funding under the Energy and Environment MOA, that the key initiatives such as the alleyway rehabilitation project design and workforce development planning could take place. This was in line with the governor's investment opportunities for our state. Additionally, city staff developed an energy and environment innovation plan to support project initiatives for the CPRG implementation grant application as required by the Energy and Environment MOA. This plan was for grant purposes only and produced only 5 projects to be funded. In February of 2024, Fort Smith joined the Arkansas Tri-Region Coalition by signing a letter of intent that would give the city more competitive edge to secure the grant award. By July, the city formalized its commitment through a Metroplan MOA, defining roles and responsibilities with Metroplan and Northwest Arkansas Planning Commission for a joint coalition application for the implementation grant. This collaboration secured $14.5 million in CPRG implementation funding for Fort Smith sustainability projects. The proposed resolution will ratify and formally approve all actions taken by the city administrator and staff in executing these agreements, confirming fund allocation for the CPRG-related projects in alignment with the board's oversight with the authorization of the EPA award agreement. That EPA award agreement has been finalized and will be brought to the board on the December 3rd board meeting for approval and authorization. With that, I will take questions after citizen comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, are there any citizens' comments?
Yes, I just counted, we have 15.
Okay.
The first being Stephen Kurtz, and then after Mr. Kurtz, we will move to Chris McRae, and everyone will have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Keep in mind the protocol, 2 minutes. That way we can get everybody to be heard, and we're ready to go. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much. I believe that this grant is a tremendous opportunity to help the city of Fort Smith help its own citizens, both economically and with assets that are incredibly important to our city, like the alleyway rehabilitation program that will make our alleyways accessible to both pedestrians, including school children who need safe ways to get to school, as well as bicycle transportation. E-bike programs for people who are economically challenged and in good weather could benefit from e-bikes. The EV charging infrastructure. We had all these people that came to our city during the eclipse and waited hours to recharge their vehicles, and there aren't any Tesla stations that I'm aware of in Fort Smith. They would have to go to Greenwood or Van Buren. But there's a tremendous opportunity. And then the public housing solar that would provide a way to do exactly what we're trying to do in so many ways, which is reduce the income difficulties that people have in our city, the challenge that people face with everyday costs of living, and all these people in the Nelson homes be able to cut their energy costs dramatically is a tremendous way that the city can say we can save our citizens money and elevate our city into the next generation. And then the workforce development so that we can train people for these kinds of jobs that will actually be well-paying jobs to establish them in their careers for the future. I think this is a win-win for the city and for all of our citizens. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chris McRae. Okay, after Chris McRae, we'll have Herbert McGill.
I, like Stephen Kurtz, I'm supporting this amendment. I like to thank all the board of directors and anybody that's worked on this this resolution to obtain this $14 million grant. I think it will enhance the quality of life of people in the Fort Smith area, and I think it's very worthy of our support. I have served in my life on many nonprofit boards, moderator of one at the current time, and on these boards we always are seeking grants and trust. And in these grants and trusts they have very specific requirements of what you must do and how you must follow through on those. And I think that's important. If you're giving money out, you want the people who receive that grant to use it for the purposes that it was originally entitled to be for. And I think that's the same way that we are doing with this grant, even though there are government regulations. I am proud that the government is overseeing the proper use of these funds to make sure the taxpayers' money of this country gets spent in the right way. It's possible that some governments could spend money where it wasn't intended, and we must spend the money where it is intended. And I would like to thank each and every one of you and encourage the support and passing of this resolution. And in my last 18 seconds, I'd like to see a show of hands of everybody here that support this particular amendment? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Yes, after Herbert McGill, we will then have Robin McCray.
Good afternoon. My name is Herbert McGill. My address is 2117 North 14th. I'm a director of the Elizabeth McGill Drop-In Center, also the director of the Community Garden, as well as a member of the Arkansas Climate League. I'm here in favor. I'm here in favor of this ordinance. I live, work, and play in this area every day. I think it would bring appreciation to the property in these areas, and I look forward to you guys amending this ordinance. I also am happy about investment into the north side. You know, I believe that the north side tends to get overlooked a lot of times regarding when it talks about investment. Us being able to put shade over the farmers market, being able to give the people at Nelson Hall Homes an opportunity to have a break on their energy bills, and also the alleyway improvement. I think it's important that our young kids see investment on the north side so they'll be able to participate in some of the things that that our city offers. And with that, you know, I just close.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Robin McCray. After Robin McCray, we'll have Joey McCutcheon.
Hi, evening everybody. I just want to keep this brief. Want to echo the voices of support for this. As a young guy, I know me and my friends think that this is the direction the city needs to go in. Want to advocate for projects like this all across the city. You know, different modes of transportation. You know, making stuff more walkable, solar, more renewable energies. You know, to make utilities more affordable, and you know, advocate for a greener planet. So. Glad that we've gone this far. Thank you so much for doing this, and just voicing my support for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Joey McCutcheon, we will have Becky Hartsfield.
Joey McCutcheon, Fort Smith. Ratify and approve. Well, the horse is already out of the barn. Carl Gefkin, at every step of this process, has exercised sovereign authority without approval one time by this board. In September of 23, he signed a MOA, a memorandum of agreement, with the State Energy Department, which required the production of a priority action plan, to which Carl Gefkin and his staff produced the Energy and Environment Innovation Plan. It was never approved by the board, still hasn't been approved today. The plan committed us and told the state that we were 100% committed to vehicle electrification of private cars. It also required installation of charging infrastructure at our workplaces, a requirement. And it also said that we were adopting very aggressive policies. So are you tonight approving those two propositions in this document? Carl Gefkin then proceeded in July of 24 to enter an MOA and made us subservient to a Little Rock and Northwest Arkansas coalition. His actions, he signed the MOU committing that we would report to the Metroplan on progress of the project, the expenditures, and purchases. Secondly, he committed this city to report to the Metroplan, taking away our local control, that we would report our accomplishments and proposed timelines and milestones. We are subservient to the city of Little Rock, the Metroplan.
Thank you very much.
Is that what you intend to do tonight?
Thank you.
After Becky Hartsfield, we'll have Crystal Cadelli.
Thank you for letting me speak. I find it very concerning that this item was placed on the agenda to be approved by the Board of Directors. I've been through the minutes and summaries of the board meetings and study sessions from January 2023 to the present, and I cannot find that the board approved for Mr. Gefkin to act in their behalf regarding the Climate Pollution Reduction Act. I have reviewed the 29-page document titled Energy and Environment Innovation Plan dated December 2023, which falls under the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. This document was crafted by Mr. Gefkin in the Western Arkansas Planning and Development District, but I cannot find it was ever formally presented to the directors. Then on tonight's agenda, it says the city has been serious about the grant since April of 2023. But once again, I cannot find mention of this in the minutes or summaries. If I've overlooked this information, I apologize, and I have been unnecessarily alarmed. But it seems that our elected officials should have been presented with this information before Mr. Gefkin applied and apparently has already received money from the grant. The original grant, I think, is approximately 300 pages, but even the 29-page document devised specifically for Fort Smith is alarming. There were 5 measures addressed in this document. I do not have time to go into each one of the measures, but one of the goals stated in the synopsis for Measure 1 alone is 100% electrification for government fleets and privately owned vehicles. The Board of Directors should have a chance to vote on this since you are our voice of the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
After Crystal Cadelli, we'll have Chris Cadelli.
Good evening. So not only are the strings attached to this grant somewhat worrisome, but it also imposes long-term financial burdens on the city. We will be responsible for ongoing maintenance of the EV stations and solar panels. Why would we take on additional maintenance responsibilities when we are already struggling to keep up with our water and sewage infrastructure? If we want to be a green and environmentally friendly city, then we need to quit spilling raw sewage into our river and to the yards in which our children are playing in. This is where our focus needs to lie. Furthermore, I truly wish Mr. Gefkin and his administration would devote as much effort addressing our critical water and sewer issues as they do pursuing non-essential projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Chris Cadelli, we'll have Tara McDaniel.
Good evening. I find it very telling that the Biden administration has $100 million for a leftist pipe dream of an EV transport of one stripe or another for every Arkansan in the metro areas. Some will get cars. The rest of us, I suppose, will get an EV bike if we're lucky. Don't worry, though. If you don't have a charged battery, they'll make sure we have a nice greenway that we can walk to work or school through. Mr. Gefkin does a great job finding dollars for problems we don't have, yet we still face this enormous consent decree issue and a crumbling water and sewer infrastructure. I echo the previous statement about dumping sewage in the river. I love the green crowd when they show up for free money for energy programs, but where are they when we talk about the raw sewage going into the river? Where's this bunch when we're talking about the sewer overflows and all the water leaks that we have in this town? As you read through the MOA, we clearly commit to the transition of the city's fleet of vehicles to EV, and that alone will be a very costly process and all the maintenance and upkeep that follows. My hope is that President Trump coming into office on this red tsunami of a mandate brings an abrupt end to this free money. Thank you.
After Tara McDaniel, we'll have Carrie Saley.
Hi, thank you. I always appreciate being able to speak with you. I'm here today to speak in strong support of the CPRG. This grant is a rare opportunity for our city to make transformative improvements with funding that primarily comes back to us from the federal government. It's an investment in our future and one that aligns with the values that I think everyone in this room has, such as our economy and our children. For each project in this grant, it brings a tangible benefit to our city. The Alloway Rehabilitation Program makes our city more attractive, a destination for visitors, shoppers, and potential new residents. That's more money spent in our local stores and more heads in our hotels. The Renewable Energy Initiative at Nelson Hall Homes is another critical piece. By reducing energy costs, we're giving these residents more financial freedom to spend within our local economy. The e-bike rebate program provides affordable alternatives for transportation, ensuring our neighbors can stretch their budgets further without forcing anyone to give up their gas-powered vehicles if they choose to keep them. EV charging stations will open up new revenue streams, attracting electric vehicle owners from outside of our city. These visitors will contribute directly to our economy every time they plug in on a road trip. Perhaps most importantly is the Workforce Development Initiative. It's a long-term game changer. By preparing our workforce for competitive green energy jobs, we ensure that our city isn't left behind as others adapt and grow. These programs will position our residents and our economy for success in the industries of the future. This grant isn't just about addressing climate change. It's about economic opportunity and the chance to create a city that thrives for generations to come. Our children deserve a city that is competitive with others, offering them abundant job opportunities, diverse transportation opportunities, and the ability to keep their hard-earned dollars in our local economy. I urge you to support this grant. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Carrie Saley, we'll have Daniel Williams. Thank you very much. Last September, Angel Cushing from Kansas, an expert on federally funded plans, shared a graph showing the money trail from the top all the way down to local cities. Everyone, please pick up a copy of this on the back table and please read it and study it. These aggressive energy, move, and safe plans come directly from the UN and are happening nationwide. This Vision Zero UN plan is found in the Fort Smith Energy Plan. Exact quotes from the Fort Smith Energy Plan are this: 100% vehicle electrification for government fleets and privately owned vehicles, required electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and business, public, right-of-way, multi-unit dwellings, and neighborhoods. Vision Zero, meaning zero roadway fatalities and zero serious injuries by the year 2050. That means nobody drives. Reduce private automobiles. How can you have zero? How can you have zero? Private automobiles encourage public transportation, bike share trips, replace a motor vehicle trip. City of Fort Smith empowered to impact measures through ordinances and resolutions sanctioned by the BODs. Land acquisition to support carbon removal initiatives. Trump's Energy Secretary nominee Chris Wright said yesterday, and I quote, "There is no climate crisis, and we are not in the midst of an energy transition either." These 5 terms, climate crisis, energy transition, carbon pollution, clean energy, and dirty energy, are not only deceptive, they are in fact destructive deceptions, end quote. City directors with the new president-elect, these plans to eliminate this one world order UN plan. So we say enough is enough, and please stop these Marxist U.S. plans. Thank you. After Daniel Williams, we'll have, it just has Vail. I don't.
You may proceed, Dan. Go ahead.
All right. Good evening, Board. I'm definitely not in favor of this. What we found is we found ourselves in a situation where we've gotten a lot of things going and we can't oversee it all. There's no accountability. And my fear in this is exactly what I've heard and what I've studied in the past. And I'm just going to list out a few of those. This right here, this will create economic burden on our city. We already are limited on our resources. We're challenged with the infrastructure. We don't even have an internal auditor here. And so we create these things, we're signing things, but we have no accountability. I believe that the board has proven that, and I believe that Carl, again, I would suggest that y'all look at getting rid of Carl and finding a replacement. This is going to create more job losses in our city because it's heavily reliant on fossil fuels. And by potentially going this way, it creates burdens on our industry here that are our primary source of our economic, even in North Fort Smith, where I reside, and I have a lot of people that work here, and they're not for this. It creates a limited resource of compliance. You can't even oversee the infrastructure you're already overseeing, and it's going to require more people to oversee these. I've been a part of nonprofit and grants, and every grant has an attachment. There's a study, and there's work that has to go into it, and this is going to increase more cost. The increased utility cost, we're going to find that that's going to transition this renewable energy, implementing energy. It raises utility costs for residents and businesses, believe it or not. And it creates a economic disparity because there are people that can't afford the technology. And every time, just like we heard last week, anytime we're going to upgrade the water system, it's new technology, and it's going to cost our city $42 million. I tell you what, get rid of the sewer problem, get rid of the water problems, and then we can talk about it. Do your job.
Thank you.
I believe it's Valeria Kiss. Okay. After Ms. Kiss, we'll have Brian Westney.
Last week, I sent an email to some of you asking to reject the Move Fort Smith master plan, which is very much embedded in the energy grant you are about to vote on. Since only one of you took the time to reply, I'm going to read my modified 6 short paragraphs to all of you. Here it goes. Dear Board of Directors, I'm asking a few minutes of your busy day to listen to what I have to say. I respectfully ask you to vote no on the energy grant. During the past few months, Fort Smith residents had realized that the city leadership has a spending problem. They realized that some of their elected city directors irresponsibly vote for spending money that the city doesn't have. They realized that some of the directors don't even listen to their constituents. I know it because I had been talking to many Fort Smith residents during the past few months. You would be surprised how much they know and how unsatisfied they are with the city leadership. More and more people are coming to the Board of Directors meeting only to realize that their voices are not being heard. The people of Fort Smith are smarter than you think of them. We are not intimidated by big dollar numbers that are flying around the room during the meetings. We have common sense. We know that the city is broke. We don't have money to match any government grants. We know that government money dries out easily, leaving a mess behind. We understand that the city needs to fix problems before it spends money on things that puts extra burden on the citizens. I understand that you have tough decisions to make. Will you vote for a wasteful plan, or will you listen to your voters? Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
After Brian Westney, we'll have Molly Echeverria.
Hi, good evening. Brian Westney for Fort Smith. So I'm here to express my concerns on this resolution. This resolution has really nothing to do with the grant and the grant money. It has to do with the actions of the city administrator. I sent you guys all an email a couple days ago, and I hope you guys all got to read it. The actions of the city administrator, it was illegal for him to enter us into an MOU. He did not have the power. He overreached his authority when he entered us into an MOA. He didn't have the authority to do that. Multiple times from multiple board members, I have written communication saying they've never seen the environmental plan. They've never seen and knew that we were entered into an MOA. So if you read this resolution, it says that you're granting him permission to do what he did. And needless to say, there is a legal action against what he did. So by doing what you guys are doing, you're trying to, in my opinion, interfere with an ongoing legal litigation and for the purpose of trying to shield somebody for his misconduct. It has nothing to do with the grant. It has to do with his misconduct, and you guys are trying to shield him. This is going to erode the public trust even more than it's already having with the consent decree, with the water and sewage issues, and now it looks like you're trying to go back and cover some of his actions. If what he did was allowed, you would not have to go in and do this ratification because he was allowed to do it. But in your own resolution, it says that you're going back in there to give him approval to do what he did, stating that he obviously did not have approval in the first place. So your vote on this is extremely important of how the city of citizens of Fort Smith are going to look at you guys if you're trying to cover one of your own or if you're actually admitting that he did something wrong.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
After Molly, we will have Joe Elskin.
All right, Molly Echeverria, Fort Smith. Today we gathered to discuss an urgent and pressing need for accountability and transparency in our community. As we navigate the complexities of collaboration, we must prioritize initiatives that truly benefit our residents and promote measurable outcomes. It is imperative that we scrutinize the organizations that we partner with. A critical example that highlights the need to examine these things is getting involved with Dr. Mitra from the University of Arkansas. He's the one that is involved in the e-bike program. Dr. Mitra, straight from the university website, his entire goal, his entire professorship is zero ownership. Now, this genuinely doesn't work towards the benefit of the community. Moreover, we must consider the environmental goals proposed in these partnerships. For instance, according to the Sebastian County data, 110 vehicles are fully electric. That does not reflect the need for charging stations in our community. I definitely, in conclusion, I urge all of you to actively participate in shaping our future. Let's vote against any resolutions that do not align with our local priorities. Together we can foster meaningful change that actually reflects the values of Fort Smith and us maintaining our autonomy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After Joe Elskin, we'll have Terry Hargrove.
Okay. I guess this feels maybe a little bit personal because since 2023, I've been trying to make sure that everybody knew that things like this were going on in Batesville. And if everybody remembers, I think 6 of you had conversations about Batesville, the amount of money that they saved. And if you check back into Batesville, you'll see that has exploded. They have continued to benefit from solar energy. I think that it was 2023 when the $440,000 planning grant came down, and that was agreed to by the board to invest in that. And that planning grant was the beginning of this. And if you want to blame anybody, I guess it was me because I kept pushing. Grants can help this city. grants can make a difference in the money, because the money comes from my tax money coming back to me. Also, workforce, advanced energy jobs pay better. We already have the facilities at UFAS and at Peak. This grant would support that and increase those kinds of jobs, all kinds of jobs connected with a safer environment. Okay, thank you. Please vote yes.
After Terry Hargrove, we'll have James Giltz.
Good evening. My name is Terry. I live here in Fort Smith, and I'm here in support of the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. I believe it's a great way to get some of our own tax money to come back into our community. It would help with something I didn't think about, was the low-income people who live in Nelson Hall homes. It would really help alleviate some of their utility costs. And that's something, when we talk about wanting to take care of our citizens, they're some of our most vulnerable citizens. If you've looked at the resident forum in the last, since September, we've had more than 3 car pedestrian accidents, and one of them led to the death of a child, right? We need to protect and have safer streets and access, and it's not just for the children. Other people were hit. Another guy was hit and killed on the scene. So we want to have safer streets, and this is a way that we can do that for our community. Thanks.
Thank you.
After James Giltz, we'll have Jerry Dave Donaldson.
Hello, Board. James Giltz, Fort Smith resident. I've spoken with you guys in the past, and I tend to take kind of an economic tilt to the way that I give comments, and I wanted to do the same thing tonight. I want to focus both on the EV chargers and on the solar. As some people have mentioned tonight, the EV chargers, the statement was they would incur a substantive increase in maintenance costs for the city. This is actually something I've looked into as far as a business investment strategy. The primary cost for EV chargers is the initial installation. The maintenance costs, the repairs, the operation costs are trivial in comparison to the gigantic upfront cost of installing them. If this grant is to be used to install them, you've offset the primary disadvantage of EV as a business. That's a huge asset. Secondly, the Nelson Hall solar project, as has been previously mentioned, is a great way to offset the bills that Fort Smith residents are facing. I'm sure here and online you've all seen people are complaining about the cost of living, they're complaining about the cost of bills. It's what is happening in America and in a lot of the world right now. Inflation and costs are rising, and it's hard for people to keep up. Installing solar for free that can help offset significant costs for people who might not be able to afford their electric bills and are just trying to live their lives is a huge asset that the city can use to reach out and help the city, civilians. I also want to applaud the city for simultaneously working on a lot of these things, these greenways, safe streets, potential business advancements, while also, as I've seen on the agenda, continuing to work on our consent decree sewer-related issues and some of the items in 10, as well as some of the water rates that were discussed earlier before I could get here. Thank you very much for your efforts.
And Mr. Donaldson is the last individual to sign in to speak on this item.
Wait a minute. You have my name in there.
Kids can't read his handwriting.
You have item 7. Did you need 6?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's been shifted around several times, but 6, I guess, is what it is.
Sorry, Chair.
Thank you.
That's okay. Mr. Donaldson.
Thank you for recognizing me. I appreciate the time. Just a couple questions for the board. On page 54 of the documents that were attached to the meeting agenda, CPRG agreement. It starts out agreement between DEQ and City of Fort Smith, gives the agreement number, reference the title of the funding. for coordinated research and development of CPRG deliverables, etc. Down at the bottom, excuse me, it gives a reference to the agreement number, federal award identification number, and on page 61, it gives reference to a memorandum and attachment A and attachment D. Attachment A is related to Acorn. If you're familiar with Acorn, they were involved in criminal activity and stopped business in 2010. So then it goes on, it says Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now. Excuse me. Some of you will be familiar with that name. Then attachment D is an Acorn funding declaration. Please complete, this is wording right from your documents, please complete the bottom section of the declaration and return the form to DEQ with your signed MOA. So either it has been signed or it has not yet been signed. If it has been signed, it should be provided. So I was not able to find it. It should be available for us to see who signed it and when. And if it hasn't been signed, we ought to be able to see the gist of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
And last, we have Rick Murphy.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it and appreciate the time. Like you to vote yes for this, okay? This process has allowed the city to benefit from so many federal dollars. They're not federal dollars, folks. They're our dollars. We put in the pot. We made the pot, okay? First point I want to make. Second point I want to make is that all of these are in total alignment with the governor's office recommendation for Arkansas investment priorities. And let me remind you what they are. Facilitating statewide economic growth and competition, keeping communities safe, preparing the infrastructure workforce, preserving and promoting the natural state, creating a portfolio of reliable, efficient, and secure energy options. Okay. About a year ago, you all hired Chris Hooper, I'm sorry if I got his name right. We hired him from Tom Cotton's office, okay? And we did that because he had expertise in writing grants to get money, okay? So what I'm wanting you to do is to look at this issue not from a political perspective, okay? But it is an awareness and incorporation of a lot of the political values that are expressed by all of us. Now, we have met with each one of you, except for Kevin, okay? I'm watching, okay?
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
That's it. There's no others.
Is that it, Madam Clerk?
That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we'll entertain a motion to adopt a resolution.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. This time, we'll entertain board comment. Director Rigo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. And thanks to everyone for being here tonight. You know, I'll just point something out that I think is important contextually and because words matter. And then I've got some additional comments to share. You know, it's been frequently referenced from the Energy and Environment Innovation Plan, comments around the 100% or vehicle electrification for government fleets or privately owned vehicles. And the actual full sentence reads as follows: local commitments to 100%, parentheses, or nearly 100% vehicle electrification for government fleets and privately owned vehicles can galvanize strong policy action and send essential market signals. As a matter of fact, can is not a word that means must or should. and I think that is a very important thing to point out. The other thing I would like to say, as it relates to the climate pollution reduction grant, is sort of take a journey back through some context in addition to what was provided in the memorandum and in the opening remarks from Mr. Robertson. So back in October of 2023, Carl sent an email, our administrator, to the board of directors and the city department heads describing that the city was working to apply for CPRG grant funding. The email included information on the CPRG and on the Energy and Environment Innovation Plan. The email encouraged participation in a project survey so that we could provide input before any grant submission was made. The intent was plainly stated in the email for the city of Fort Smith to participate alongside Wapatiti and the Frontier MPO here in the Fort Smith area, the Metroplan MPO in the Little Rock area, and the Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning Commission in a multi-billion-dollar grant application. An article describing all of this ran in the Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette on October the 23rd of 2023. In January of 2024, Carl clearly described the CPRG work being done in the 2023 year in review document that he sent to the board of directors on January the 18th, 2024. At the January 23rd, 2024 study session, the Energy and Environment Innovation Plan was presented to us by Joshua Robertson in a 31-minute presentation. He then emailed the 16-slide presentation to us that night, which incidentally Carl had previously sent to us for review on the preceding 19th of January. In February of 2024, a grant report from Chris Hoover, our grants manager, director, seeker, was sent to us on February the 5th, where he describes the work that he's doing, including on the CPRG. On February the 7th, 2024, we received a CPRG grant update email from Joshua Robertson. In April of 2024, a grant report from Chris Hoover was sent to us on the 9th of April, where he described the work that he's doing, including CPRG work. In July of 2024, on the 21st, in fact, we're informed via email that Fort Smith has been awarded $14.5 million in CPRG grant funding. The award announcement clearly spelled out the local projects that the funding had been designated for. It's been mentioned tonight: the alleyway rehab, the e-bike rebates, EV charging infrastructure, solar power for the Nelson Hall homes, and workforce development. Myself, Director Good, Director Morton, and Director Christina Kitsavis responded positively to that email, expressing excitement and just gratitude at the work that was done to put in for these efforts. We put out a press release announcing this award, and it generated, so far has generated 4 pages of Google News results across media outlets in Arkansas and Oklahoma. And so I sort of myself push back against this notion that there was some sort of lack of information or lack of ability to have information if someone chose to be informed on that. And so we've arrived, roughly at present day in October of 2024. A press release announcement was made on the 4th of October, I believe, that Carl's being sued under a theory that he has exceeded his authority as it relates to the pursuit of CPRG grant funding. And so I just, based on what we heard and what we saw in the memo and what was just really, I think, very plainly laid out, I just really object wholeheartedly to the idea that we were in some way not informed or things were being kept from us. And I would hasten to add that I don't recall viewing at any juncture along the route that I described since October of 2023, any one of us saying, well, I don't think this is a good idea and maybe we shouldn't pursue this, or that this is not something we should do for our community. Thank you.
Director LaVon Morgan. Okay, I have questions for 3 people: Joshua Robertson, Mitch Minnick, if he's here, and for Andy Richards, if he's here. My first question is for Joshua. So Mr. Donaldson made a reference to a document that's page 54 of the board packet. When I read that document, it appears to relate solely to the $440,000 grant. Is that accurate?
On
the MOA with the energy and environment.
Yeah, AD.
Yes, and that ACORN was reviewed by our city attorney, and we also submitted that as well.
Right, but that relates to the 440,000.
Correct,
right?
sir.
That not the 14 million. Right?
No, sir.
Okay, that's the first thing. Second, as I recall in the financial materials we were given regarding solar panels, the cost that we were looked at as far as our future cost of these versus the savings, those costs included insurance cost to protect the panels from fires or weather damage, hailstorms, things like that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And those panels, I believe, have a warranty period that is included as part of the cost of when we buy them, the warranty is included. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. Have we received any of this money yet?
We've only received, again, the $440,000 of planning funds.
Funds, okay.
We have not received the $14.5 million. We have to authorize the EPA award agreement that I will be bringing to the board on December 3rd.
Okay. When I read further into these documents, it appears there's a $750,000 administrative cost allocation that the city would be able to use for funds to administer the grant. Is that accurate?
Yes, it's for a position for under my department to then be able to solely administer all of the different reporting mechanisms, projects, and make sure the procurement and everything is done correctly.
So in effect, that pays salaries of people, a part of your salary and a part of other people's salary?
Not a part of mine. It'll be fully to fund one position for the next 5 years.
Okay. $750,000. Well, it should cover overhead and other things too. So
yes, and anything under that we will put towards workforce development if it does come under budget.
Okay. What is the city's out-of-pocket match for this grant?
$0.
$0. Just get it in the record. $0. Okay, I think that is. That's all I have. So but just to clarify, you will have one person that's really overseeing this thing the whole time at effectively zero cost to the city. Is that accurate?
Yes, and the thing is that if that position, since it's funded by the grant, obviously can only work
on this grant, right?
Yes.
So one more question. I apologize for saying I was finished. But I did receive some emails today that had some information I had not seen before, and I'm confident I know the answer on this, but I got a couple of emails about information that indicated that somehow our appliances could be turned off if we take this grant. Is there any? Have you seen anything like that, or
not that I'm aware of, sir?
No. And you've read all the documents. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And see, I'm not even sure how that would be done, honestly. So, and finally, is there any requirement that we that would drive people to electric vehicles other than their own personal decision that they wanted to drive an electric vehicle as their choice?
No, sir.
No. Okay. That's all I've got for you. Thank you very much, Joshua.
Yes,
Mitch Minnick. Just to get in the public record,
yes.
Can you tell us what kind of an entity Nelson Hall Homes is? What kind of an organization is it?
If you wouldn't mind, please introduce yourself. Thank you, Mitch.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Mitch Minnick with the Fort Smith Housing Authority.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
Sure.
Nelson Hall Homes is a former public housing development here in Fort Smith at 2100 North 31st Street. It's a 280-plus unit development, originally built in 1968 as public housing. In 2014, the Housing Authority, working with HUD, took Nelson Hall Homes out of federal government ownership, which most public housing is, into local ownership with the Fort Smith Housing Authority.
Okay.
And so Nelson Hall Homes is the nonprofit corporation that was set up that is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Fort Smith Housing Authority to own and operate that development.
So it is a nonprofit corporation, right?
That's correct.
That files a nonprofit income tax return with the IRS that can be viewed, just for information, on guidestar.org.
That is correct.
I looked at that today. So does any other corporation or individual officer of your organization or any board member or member of administration or any businessman in Fort Smith own any part of Nelson Hall Homes or get any personal benefit other than whatever salaries are paid to the people that manage the operation?
No, sir. There are no individual shareholders or owners of any Fort Smith Housing Authority entity.
Okay, so and the benefit for the savings, the electricity savings for the residents of Nelson Hall Homes, how will that be realized by them? And can you tell me anything about what those individuals have to do to qualify to live there?
Absolutely. So in order to live at Nelson Hall Homes, there are income guidelines. And so someone has to be below a certain income level. And then additionally, for Nelson Hall Homes, it's a complex specifically for elderly and or disabled individuals. And as far as the utilities go there, residents pay their own gas and electric bills. And so this CPRG grant would allow the solar farm to be built, and that's off-site. There's no work that's happening on the Nelson Hall site. Nothing's being disturbed there. The residents are not being disturbed. And then the power that solar farm generates would provide credits to us that would go to the OG&E bill for the Nelson Hall complex, which is, it's on a single meter. And so we have our administrative building, our maintenance building, and then all 280 plus units are on that one building, and then each unit is individually metered. On average, our units, they have an average bill over the last 12 months or so of about $50 a month for electricity only. And so if the estimates, conservatively, they said 70%, they said it could go as high as 90%. As far as the reduction with the credits, at that 70% rate, that would take our client's monthly average bill down to $15 a month. Okay. It would be a significant savings.
Thank you, Mr. Minnick. That's very helpful information. Thank you.
Okay. Director Rigo?
No, I still have Andy Richards.
Okay.
I have a question for him. Okay, Mr. Richards, you've either been the chief financial officer of the city, or for many years prior to that, you were a partner or someone who worked on the audit of the city. Is that accurate?
Yes.
With the public accounting firm. So the city, as I recall, being a member of the audit committee, receives a number of grants really every year. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
And those grants are audited by our independent auditors.
Yep.
And to your knowledge and memory, have we ever had a situation where we had to refund a large amount of money because we failed to comply with an individual grant?
Not to my knowledge.
And that knowledge goes back a number of years. Is that accurate?
It goes back to 2004.
Okay, very good. So we seem to be fairly effective at administering grants in a manner to comply with the terms of the grant. Is that a fair assessment based on history?
I only remember one finding in that whole
So,
time
and that was
frame.
more of a control finding, procedure finding. You're saying you remember one?
Yeah.
In 20 years. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Director Rigo, you were next in the queue.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is just a question for Joshua, just to make the point and make sure I understood it and have maximum clarity on it. So 2 weeks from, I want to make sure I heard you correctly, 2 weeks from tonight, December the 3rd, it's your intention to bring before us some piece of legislative material by which we will vote to either accept $14.5 million with no local match in grant money, or we will vote to decline that. That's 2 weeks from tonight. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. That will
Okay.
actually obligate the city to the $14.5 million.
Okay, so I would just encourage folks who have a vested interest or even a passing interest in this topic to have December the 3rd as a date on your calendar, 2 weeks from tonight.
Director George Casavas.
Colby? Hey, Mitch, who pays the water at Nelson Hall Homes? You never said who paid the water bill. Fort Smith Housing Authority.
Housing Authority.
Yes, so the water, sewer, and trash service are included in the, the residents' rent. That is not an additional expense
Okay.
for them.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Colby.
Yes,
Let me
sir.
ask you something.
Sure.
Mr. Wesley back there brought up something that caught my attention. The city currently, or there's a lawsuit against Carl Gefkin by a local attorney stating that he overstepped his bounds by applying for a grant without getting board approval. Is that correct? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, it's a lawsuit against the city and Mr. Gefkin in his official capacity, which is essentially the city. But yes.
Okay, let me ask you this. Suppose this goes to litigation.
Well, it's in litigation.
I'm not saying, suppose the court rules in favor of the plaintiff. Okay?
Okay.
Then can the plaintiff ask the judge to make null and void any of the grants prior to ruling on this grant?
I suppose the plaintiff could ask that. My position on it is, as Mr. Robertson explained earlier, the board has already approved the use of the $440,000 planning grant.
Mm-hmm.
That money's already been approved by this board. So to that I would say the board's already approved that grant. You did that when you approved the use of those funds. So to the extent a plaintiff asks for that, I'd say the court's probably not likely to allow that because the board's already approved those funds and
But
approved
the
that
question
grant.
was, Mr. Gefkin applying for the grants without board approval.
Correct, and the board has approved the use of those funds that he applied for.
I know we approved the use of them, but we didn't. Do we need to approve him applying for the grants? In other words,
That's the purpose of this resolution is to expressly approve Mr. Gefkin's application for those grant funds, one of which the board's already approved the use of those funds. So to me, it makes obvious sense.
This is after the fact.
That's okay.
Does it make any difference?
It does not. This board can approve what Mr. Gefkin's done.
Yeah, I'm really torn here between I'm really torn here on this.
Legally, the board can absolutely approve what Mr. Gefkin's done. Now, as the recital at the end notes, I think Mr. Gefkin's within his ministerial authority to apply for those, and this board then has to accept the use of those funds and allocate the use of those funds and approve agreements, as you did with the the alley rehabilitation design work with the MC engineers. But legally, the board can approve what its administrator's done after the fact.
So if the court finds in favor of the plaintiff, there's no retroactive repercussions to any other grants that have been approved.
If the board approves this expressly, a court, in my opinion, will not undo the applications that Mr. Gefkin made.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm really torn on this because I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Neil Martin.
I want to thank everybody that has reached out over the last couple of days. Even though I haven't responded to you, there's just been a lot that I probably won't be able to. So if you have an email out, I apologize. I won't be able to respond to everybody, but thank you for doing that. One of the key pieces of this grant is the Energy and Environment Innovation Plan. And, Director Rigo kind of outlined kind of how we got to this point. And I remember the night that we were introduced to the plan and we got the PowerPoint associated with it. But we never got the plan. And it wasn't until I had breakfast with a private citizen that I actually got the plan. And so I didn't even know it existed. I didn't even know the printed document existed. Maybe I should have known that, but I don't know if I never saw it in the words. I never saw the document until it was handed to me. In order for us to be able to move forward, we have to be able to move forward in a protocol. And that protocol starts here with the board. It's very important, and this is, I don't want to get too far away from it, but this is why I have a lot of difficulty with the federal government and how they make decisions, or how people make decisions, non-elected people make decisions. And I think that's one of the big things we talked about with Chevron deference, that it's taking that power away from the unelected side of Washington, D.C., and putting it back on the legislature, which I believe the legislature has the most power of our federal government. And I feel that the legislature here has the power, which is this 7 board of director members. And so that's why I believe that nothing can be done without our approval. And nothing can move forward without going through this board, vetting it out, approving something, and then moving forward. So I feel like we've got to move Fort Smith plan. That we get a lot of people that are concerned about the Move Fort Smith plan, but we have to approve the Move Fort Smith plan before we can implement. The Safe Fort Smith plan, kind of the same thing. We have to approve that plan before we can move forward, and we're going through that. But we haven't approved this one, and I don't feel comfortable moving forward without that plan being approved. And I feel like the 7 of us really need to look hard and determine, is that how we want these things to go? And I'm going to be a no tonight because of that very thing. It's important that this get approved by us and then we move forward. And I don't feel like we did that in this case. So that's where I stand.
Director Rigo, you recognize. Okay. Are there any other comments? Director Levon Martin. Question for Joshua Robertson. For every dollar we spend, well, when we get this money, and I don't know if it comes in a lump sum or if it's allocated out based on projects, but we have the right up until next week or some date in the future to say, no, we don't want this money. Is that accurate?
That is correct, and it's also stated in the servability piece of the MOA with Metroplan as the lead applicant.
Okay, so really all we're approving tonight is the fact that we asked for the money, and we can later decide we don't want we don't want the grant because it's got too many restrictions. And really every dollar that we spend above a certain amount for this grant, $75,000, any contract we do, we'll have to come back to this board for approval before we spend it. Is that accurate based on the city rules?
That is accurate.
Okay, that's all I got. There's plenty of opportunity to reject or say we don't want to do this and send the money back. Well, we won't have the money, or send the money back, just like we did on Miss Laura's, where we said the state gave us a grant. We said we don't like your terms, so here's your money back. So we have a lot of openings on this going forward. It's not like we're bound to anything. What we're trying to do is get an opportunity to make sure we can do something in a manner that we're satisfied with, that will be a good thing for people who live in Nelson Hall homes and for people in the city of Fort Smith. Again, and there's no control over our cars. I don't hear any control over our appliances. It's hard for me to find anything negative on this at all. And so once we spend the money and it's audited by our auditors, and all these projects are complete, will the federal government have any involvement in this after that fact, after that's done?
No, because all the projects that we are doing within this grant do have a 5-year period. We will have reporting, and once the funds are expended and we submit our final report, as far as I know, and what's in the award agreement, it's done.
Well, and we know that our outside auditors and possibly government auditors will look at the way we spend the money to make sure we comply. And again, we have a tremendously good track record at spending money the way we're supposed to spend money from someone who goes back 20 years, Mr. Richards. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further comments. Director Rigo, I'm sorry.
And just building on that, again, the actual decision to accept $14.5 million or not is 2 weeks from today.
Yes, and that award agreement will be in the board package in its entirety.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Settle.
Thank you, Mayor. So Josh, the night that this was presented to the board, myself and I think Carl were off. I was at work, had a work-related issue in another state, and I think Carl was something else. My biggest concern is what's been brought up, and I did say this during the move discussion. Why is there a reference about people's private vehicles in the plan? There's really no reason to have that in the plan at all.
Yeah, look, may I go ahead and explain the plan?
Sure,
I would
sure.
love
Please tell me why, because I really don't see a reason why that needs to be in the plan.
This plan is for the grant, and it's now done because what has come from this plan is 5 projects that have been awarded in the CPRG. In our plan, we had to pick measures that were in the climate pollution reduction grant, and we picked these measures. The synopsis are of those measures, and that's why it says cities can help drive adoption. Cities can aim. Cities can instigate. Cities can. That's all their language. Ours at the very end, and our rationale in this plan for selecting this measure states the city plans to work with local business leaders and the public to begin planning the city EV charging infrastructure.
Whose language was that?
The EPA's language from the climate pollution reduction grant. That is their measures, and that's why it's the synopsis, their measure.
So this is not something we wrote. This is what the federal government, EPA, says you got to have in here to get the grant.
Yes. Just that we selected that. That's their synopsis. Our rationale for selecting this was to adopt.
Did it have to be in there?
I don't know, but that was the way that we wrote it, that this is the synopsis of the measure, our rationale, and then what we actually went for in the implementation grant were 13 charging stations at libraries in our city.
Yeah, I mean, the charging stations, I get. I mean, I go to Buc-ee's and there's some there. So, I mean, I get charging stations, and I think we talked about putting some over here by the farmer's market at one time and stuff like that. So it really goes back to this. Did the EPA, is this something the EPA say that we have to have in this grant, this language here in the synopsis?
No. So these plans were required in the memorandum of agreement with the State of Energy and Environment, and it was their requirement that they had to send a priority action plan supplement to the EPA. And so we were told to pick at least three measures, give the synopsis of those measures, and then our rationale for choosing that, and then what our plan was. And that was how we drafted.
Yeah, to me, I think if this language is not in here for private vehicles and stuff like that, I think some of this gets tampered down, but it's in the plan unless that plan changes.
But it states what cities can do.
I get the word can or do and must and shall, but ultimately, there was, in my mind, if that language is not in here, it probably doesn't change the majority of this grant at all, and probably some of the backlash we're getting goes away.
Understood. And again, this plan is done with the grant, and we will be needing the board to work with us on the next plan that's in the MOA that's in the packet, which is actually the comprehensive action plan for the future, which the board would have to vote on as it is a future plan.
Like I said during the move discussion, we still haven't voted on that yet. To me, this is where that's that threshold crossing is that you words can, and I get where Jared was at, and I just, to me, if you take that sentence out, versus the grant changes, and so, I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going to put this at. Thanks.
Thank you. There are no further comments. And I appreciate the robust discussion on this. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Directors Martin,
No.
Rego,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Morton,
Yes.
George Katsavas.
No.
Christina Katsavas,
Yes.
Settle.
No.
Motion passes 4 in favor and 3 opposed.
Thank you. Please. Thank you. This time we'll go to item number 7.
Items 7A and 7B relate to change orders to a software license and services agreement related to implementation of phases 1 and 2 of the CityView software, which will support business licensing, planning, building services, and neighborhood services. Item 7A is an appropriation ordinance, and item 7B is a resolution authorizing the change orders. Deputy City Administrator Maggie Rice will speak to these items and respond to any questions from the board.
Yes, in October 2022, the Board of Directors authorized a contract for development services software with CityView. As we move forward with Phase 1 and Phase 2 configuration, it became apparent there were some items that would be out of scope of the original contract. The total cost of the proposed Phase 1 and Phase 2 change order is $12,925.58. Approval allows for CityView staff to complete the configuration for business licensing, planning, building services, and neighborhood services. City staff should start validation testing at the beginning of the year, followed by a full go-live by March 2025. The resolution approving the change order and the ordinance appropriating the funds are before you tonight.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, are there any citizens' comments on this item?
None indicating.
Okay, this time we'll entertain a motion to adopt items 7A and 7B.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
No.
I have a comment.
Okay, Director Christina Katsavas and then Director LaVon Morton.
Maggie, for the hospitality tax configuration, do we currently have anyone who's past due on that?
At present, I don't believe we have anybody with substantial amounts that's past due, or not past due to the point that would require ordinance action.
Okay, that was my only question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Katsavas. Director LaVon Morton and then Director Neil Martin.
Maggie, could you remind us what CityView is, what it's going to help us with, and how many departments are going to use it?
Sure. CityView will be the online interface for all customers that want to submit for building permit, business licensing. When they want, they're going to be able to pay online for all of those functions. They'll also be able to remit their hospitality and supplemental taxes online. It will also be a portal for neighborhood services to use, so it's going to be fully integrated, and all of the development services departments in terms of building, neighborhood services, planning, business licensing will all be able to use it and be able to view others' interest in property as well. Eventually, Phase 3 will be City Clerk and Oak Cemetery, so the Oak Cemetery will finally have a software program that they'll be able to manage their operations at Oak Cemetery.
Okay, so it sounds like it's something that will improve efficiency and also be good for the people who deal with city departments.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Director Neil Martin.
Maggie, how much testing have we done on these modules?
We have gone through configuration, which was lots and lots of time, and we are getting ready to start validation testing. They have imported our files, so we have looked through to make sure that the information came over correctly for planning and that side of the house.
Right.
And validation testing will start once we can get, if this change order gets approved.
I mean, do we feel like this is going to meet our needs, and we're not, I go through a number of software platforms, and we're sold something, and then in actuality, what comes into play isn't exactly what we want, doesn't meet our needs. We have to make a lot of changes. What's your assessment of these modules here that we're going to be using?
I think that they will work for the city.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Directors Rego,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Morton,
Yes.
George Katsavas.
Yes.
Christina Katsavas.
No.
Settle,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
It's approved, 6 in favor and 1 opposed.
This time I'll ask the board, would you like to take a
Yes.
10-minute break?
Get 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to take a 10-minute recess. We're going to return to, so we can get all the board members return to their places, please. Go to item 8 on the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead and start on.
Yeah, she actually never left, I don't think. All right, items 8A and 8B relate to water infrastructure improvements along Racetrack Road for economic development purposes. Item 8A is an appropriation ordinance, and item 8B authorizes a design services contract with Hawkins Weir for this project. Director of Water Utilities Lance McAvoy will speak to this item.
Welcome back, Lance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. The item before you tonight, as stated, is a two-part. One is allocating some funds. It is not the entire cost of the project. This is just funds to get the design committed. This is part of an area that was just annexed. We actually talked about this at our last voting meeting. This will go up the south side of Interstate 540. The road is called No Name Road. Turn, go underneath the interstate, and then come back down Racetrack Road and join at the end of where Mr. Altus is putting in his 8-inch line. This is an economic development project. This project will not just supply fire flow to Mr. Altus' property, but also along No Name, any other developments that go out in that area. And then also, should the Choctaw Nation decide to expand into Fort Smith, that would be the primary line that would supply water for that development. The allocation comes from the general fund because this is an economic development project. And again, we're looking at around 140, I'm rounding, 144,000. That is a not to exceed dollar amount. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any citizens' comments on this item?
We just have Larry Yancey to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we entertain a motion to adopt items 8A and 8B.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Any board member comments? Director Settle, you recognize.
Thank you. Lance, you know,
I have a quick comment.
Okay.
it's odd to see a pressure reducing station this far south. Why do we have one here?
So we're actually coming off of 2 different pressure planes so that we don't continue to backfeed. How this will work, it's actually a double check valve pressure reducing station that will be set at around 35 PSI. And what that does is when the flow drops, say there, heaven forbid, there is a fire on one line and the flow drops, it opens the check valve and allows additional flow to come from a different pressure plane. This is the second of these types of projects that we have done in Fort Smith this year that we're looking at. This allows a looped system when you have 2 different pressure planes. Normally, you would look at doing that where you have a storage tank or a pump station. This is a much more economical way of doing it.
Does the pipe at the Racetrack Road, does it connect with another pipe in that area at the end of this pipe?
Yeah, it will connect into where the check valve, that portion, and then that actually ties back into another 8-inch pipe further up the road. And then that again will also allow, should there be low pressure, additional pressure to flow.
I know where Broken Hill is, that's the golf ball. Where does the Racetrack Road get fed from? Do you remember off the top of your head? I'm trying to remember what tanks are around there. That's where I struggled.
Let me see.
It's probably something easy.
And I probably had it in my notes, my first line of notes, and I will get that for you to get that out. But
sounds good.
I want to say that maybe Haven Hill that comes off of there, but I would have to double check that.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Lance.
Director George Casavas.
Lance, Mr. Altus is okay with this?
Yes, I believe so. It
Okay.
will actually provide some additional fire flow to buildings that he already has that currently does not have
And
fire flow.
if he builds more buildings, he'll have plenty of water pressure.
That will be plenty of water pressure because we will have that double check valve for fire suppression. And of course, there's already enough water pressure to meet normal basic hygiene needs.
So if the casino expands, then we'll still have plenty. We'll still have plenty of water. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the board? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Directors Good,
Yes.
Morton,
Yes.
George Katsavas.
Yes.
Christina Katsavas.
Yes.
Settle,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rego.
Yes.
It's approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Item 9.
This item is a resolution accepting the $8.2 million bid from Forsgren for the 2016 SSA Remedial Measures. This is in fact the same project discussed the last two meetings relative to the insufficient low bid of $4.5 million from Royal Ridge Construction. This is a consent decree project and must move forward one way or another. Director of Water Utilities, Lance McAvoy, will address this item.
So we've kind of talked about this at several meetings. Forsgren, we met with them last week. They are within their 60-day bid period. They had one concern, and that was time to complete, and we said we would work with them on that. But they are willing to start that. One question that was asked by the board is if Forsgren planned to use Royal Ridge as a subcontractor. Before we even asked that question, they stated up front, because they had watched the board meeting, that no, they would not be using Royal Ridge as a subcontractor on this project. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any citizens' comments, Madam Clerk?
We just have Chris Morris to answer questions.
Okay, thanks, Chris, for being here. This time we'll entertain a motion to adopt a resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Directors Morton,
Yes.
George Katsavas.
Yes.
Christina Katsavas.
Yes.
Settle,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rego.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
It's approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Thank you. We reached our consent agenda. Mr. Dingman, you recognize.
Thank you, Mayor. There are 9 items on tonight's consent agenda. The first is a resolution setting public hearing to vacate the right-of-way on Chad Colley Boulevard. Second is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a third lease agreement with the state for a parking lot. We have a resolution approving interlocal agreement with Sebastian County for consolidated 911 dispatch center. We have a quick claim deed and bill of sale reconveying the property to Gerber Products Company by resolution. We have a resolution authorizing application to raise grant for Bass Reeves Legacy Loop and Greenway. We have a resolution authorizing application to EPA's Environmental and Climate Justice Community Change Grants Program. We have a resolution authorizing execution of agreement relative to change in the bond trustee. We have a resolution accepting bid for playground equipment for Hillcrest and Woodlawn Parks. We have a resolution approving third-party hauler permit for In-N-Out Roll-Off LLC.
Okay, thank you very much. This time I'll ask if there's any items that need to be pulled for separate consideration. Okay, this time we'll ask for a motion.
Okay, I have a
Okay.
question on 10B, or a comment on 10B, and a question on 10E.
Any
Okay.
others?
A, C, E, and F.
We'll start with A.
What are they doing on A with that portion of Chad Colley? I didn't see that in the documentation.
So this has to do with the realignment project that RDOT is doing, and this will be a portion of...
The realigning of Frontier?
Yes, this will be a portion of undeveloped Chad Colley that is going to be it's going to not be used. It's not developed now, and so they're going to revert it back to the property owner.
Okay, which is
ACHE.
ACHE. Okay.
And Mr. Aldrich
Yeah.
is
Okay.
here,
I
so
didn't.
if he wants to add anything.
Can you add a little color to that? It's unused.
Well, it was
It's not
the
developed.
southbound lane of Chad Colley Boulevard.
Okay.
And with the Highway 255 project, the intersection was realigned, and instead of having a boulevard in the middle of it at the intersection, It will be a 5 or 6 lane intersection with no boulevard. So it shifted the southbound lanes over to the east, creating about a 42-foot wide piece of property that we would like to further develop that corner
Just
with.
give it back to the, okay. And is that right there, is that that's not the medical school, that's.
It's at the corner of Chad Colley and Frontier. It's across the street from the Prairie apartment complex that's under construction. It's just north. It's just north of Mercy Rehab Hospital.
Okay. That's going to be the grocery store.
Mercy.
Yes, the grocery store is to the west. The Harps grocery store is under construction, under site work right now. This actual lot is going to be a First Security Bank.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.
What was the next item?
Item B, 10B.
10B?
Okay, on B, I have a question or comment for Mr. Richards to come up. Okay, this is getting a little bit in the weeds that won't interest most people, but it is something to consider. We're in this what's proposed here, and this is a continuation of agreements that's already in place. We're trading parking spots in the parking deck, which belong to the city, for parking spots in a surface lot between Garrison and Rogers. And I believe that it is, this is a nothing thing, but it is important for a proper view of the parking deck. I believe that it most likely is appropriate to record the fair value on both sides of what is being swapped for what. And I would just ask you to look into that, because what the revenue we're not getting on the parking deck is saving us money on renting the surface spots which are closer to our building from the state. So there's a fair value there.
Are we're swapping it with the state? Is that what our?
Yeah, we're swapping with the state. They're getting spots in the parking deck. We're getting surface spots that are closer to our building. And I just say, generally, I think there's a fair value recorded on the books, because it makes it look like the parking deck is generating no revenue, when in fact it's saving us the cash rent we would have to pay for that parking that we're using between Garrison and Rogers, which is very convenient to our building. So there's a value there. I just would ask you to look at it, and when the board's considering the parking deck in the future, realize that we're getting some value for that. And I'll just say I've changed my view on that since I've considered not having the parking deck, to say that it seems to be going on without us having to spend a lot of money on it. So I think it's worth looking at to try to save it in some way as we go forward. But it obviously depends on the cost, which I won't be around to decide on that. But I'm just saying there is a value there that was not, this right now zero on the books, and I would just ask Mr. Richards as the CFO to take a look at that and decide what he thinks we ought to do. That's all. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Next item.
Questions on 10C?
I guess my question here is, item 10C was not in the packet. The documentation, the agreement was not in the packet. And I believe we got it. Did we get that yesterday via email?
Yeah.
I have not read it.
What are you proposing?
Well, I'm either going to vote against it, or we can make a motion to table, but I don't know if that's appropriate. I mean, when I get the packet, and the things I'm going to vote for, I need them there. And if they come late, like on a Monday, when I have another job where I'm working all day, it doesn't always give me the opportunity to read it. And so, without it being there when the packet came, that prevented me from being able to read it. If the board would be open to it, I'd be open to tabling it. Give us another 2 weeks to actually digest it and read it. I doubt there's going to be anything in there that's of major concern, but I'd at least like to read it before we have some discussion. Before we vote on it.
I'll second. If you want to make a motion, I'll second it.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Can I ask a question? Yes.
Well, hold on. I make a motion to table 10C.
Second.
Question for Mr. Dingman. So, and I realize this may not be directly something you're working on, but is there, if we put it off for 2 weeks, are we missing some state deadline on this? Because, I mean, I know at the end of the day, there's a big amount of money that we're going to get to do all this thing. And the issue is, if we don't do it by a certain date, the state's going to say, well, you missed the deadline, and you're not getting any money. And the city and the county will both be in trouble, as well as all these other little cities around.
Specifically to that question, I would defer to Chief Baker, who's more knowledgeable on that than myself. I don't believe that there is a particular time.
I didn't see Chief Baker, who's behind the post.
Between
so
now and December 3rd, our next meeting.
So the deadline is January 1st of 2025. The legal deadline to accomplish the consolidation. There's no way that that's going to happen for us. The city administrator and the county judge are planning to go before the state 911 board on Thursday to request an extension. I'm a member of the board. I won't be able to vote on that item, but I anticipate that the extension will be granted. However, it would be much better to have an agreement in place before that ask is made.
So you're saying it would be better for us to vote in favor of this tonight?
I would feel more comfortable with that. The quorum court voted on the agreement today and approved it unanimously. So that side of it's been approved. I understand apprehension of voting for something that hasn't been examined, but we really are kind of on a time crunch here. So
what's at risk is this money from the state 911 fund, right? And it's substantial.
Yeah, our turnback is about $2 million a year now, the funding that comes from the cell phone usage, and that's just going to go up. As the population of the state increases.
Okay, thank you.
Director Settle.
Chief Baker, thank you very much. My issue with this is we have a 911 center that's working really well. And in my mind, why do we just go to the 13 other cities and get an agreement with them and start 911 with them? I mean, the whole idea of the consolidated 911 center was every county or big cities, small cities would all go together. It seems like we've got this back and forth where it's going to go, who's in charge, we're going to give it over to the 911 board. Why not the city say, we're going to pay 69% of this. Why don't we say, hey, we'll go to all the cities, get the agreements, and let's just start this thing rolling, and we'll just get going here, because I think this is taking way too long. So that's kind of where I'm at with this is, I might agree, I've read it, I might vote for it as it is, but I think we should just go to the cities, make an agreement, let's just get this thing done.
Well, we were mandated by the state to consolidate the two PSAPs. Really the only hook that the state has to enforce that is to withhold funding. And so if we did that, we would risk losing the roughly $2 million a year that we receive to fund the center.
Are we the only ones left to consolidate, or there's other cities?
The other jurisdictions, I believe there are 4 that will be requesting extensions. I don't know of any that have not been able to accomplish the consolidation yet.
Is anywhere in this area, other parts of the state, besides us, is it Northwest Arkansas, East Arkansas, you know where it's at?
So,
do you know where those other locations are at Northwest Arkansas?
I don't recall.
Okay.
It's in my agenda packet for Thursday, but...
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Mayor.
Director LeVon Morton.
So you said it's mandatory from the state of Arkansas. The state of Arkansas actually ordered this?
Yes. Act 660 of 2019.
So it's a law. It's a law that we do it. And So $2 million, and that's every year, right? They might withhold it every year
Yes,
from now
sir.
on. Every year from now on, right?
That's correct.
All right, good enough. That convinces me.
I withdraw my motion to table.
Well,
Okay.
second.
All right, thank you. Okay, next item.
Questions on item 10E?
Another citizen's comment. Could we listen to the citizens first?
Yes.
E and F maybe?
E and F, are there any citizens' comments on E?
Yes, we have multiple sign-ins to speak on 10E. The first being Jesse Watson. Jesse Watson? Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Colby.
Oh, okay. Fancy. Thank you, Assistant. I'm Jessie. I actually live at Nelson Hall, so I'm kind of excited that y'all voted or is continuing that conversation. But I just wanted to voice my opinion in approval of this plan and applying for the grant money because it just makes things a lot easier. I know that a lot of people are worried about cars, but here's the thing. Fort Smith existed before cars, and it will exist after cars. So that's just where I stand on that. And I really hope that y'all approve applying for the grant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Andy Postrick.
Hi, thank you, everybody. I'm Andy Postrick. I love living in Fort Smith. If you look at the city financials, all of the infrastructure is listed as an asset. You convert cash, you turn it into pipes and roads, and it becomes an asset. But as you heard from some of your constituents tonight, a lot of us think of infrastructure as a liability because it eventually needs to be repaved. So every decision and every project that we start in this city, I think there should be a question, does this create more wealth than it costs for the city to build? So a new subdivision might be getting created, but it comes with the extended liability of all the pipes and the roads that connect to it. And very often, especially since the 1980s, a lot of the projects in Fort Smith cost more to maintain than revenue that they generate for the city. So that's what I blame for the consent decree. And these projects still need to be maintained every year, and they're never going to pay for themselves. So the only way to dig us out of that hole is to reconfigure infrastructure in a way that actually creates more wealth than it takes away. So that's why the legacy loop is a win-win for me, because it's already being built on infrastructure that we are already paying to maintain, most of it. Now, the other half of this is this new bridge, which I do have serious reservations about, because this new bridge isn't the only bridge that we've got a grant for right now. There's also $283 million for another bridge going over the Arkansas River, which I haven't heard anybody come out against tonight, but it has the same equity language and reducing cars language, but nobody has come out and joined me in opposing the new $283 million bridge. So I'm for the loop, but I'm hard questioning whether the new bridges will pay for themselves. I'd like to see the math. Thank you.
Next, we have Joe Elskin.
So I wanted to speak because I felt like there would be objections to this, and I just wanted to point out that there's always going to be some tension between investments to bring in people, to bring in the public, to things like the Bass Reeves Loop, and that the fear, the conservative fear of uncontrolled expenses and change. And I just wanted to say that, you know, Fort Smith has wisely invested in tourism and needs to continue to wisely invest in things like the Bass Reeves Loop. Tourism is second only to agriculture in our economy. This is a guaranteed investment. It will bring in people. Using grant money for attractions should satisfy both sides. The cost is controlled. The biggest investment is our federal tax money coming back to us. So I was at the Parks meeting that showcased the Bass Reeves Trail. I believe it will attract visitors and their money. Thank you.
Next, we have Terry Hargrove.
Hello, my name's Terry. I'm standing up here again to tell you to please vote in favor for these grants. They help our city in a lot of different ways, and if we can keep reaching out and these more creative options to find funding. And again, I agree, this is a great way to bring our own tax money back to our community, and that it would be an asset to our community. Thanks.
Next, we have James Giltz.
Yeah, okay. Hey there, board, me again.
Thought you were
Start talking quick. Free time. It's free time.
I'm a big fan of this grant in particular, not because it brings a bunch of economic benefit to the city in terms of revenues, as I've spoken about previously tonight, and I think some of the folks here have. I haven't looked into that specifically, so I don't want to throw an opinion on that. But something I do want to highlight is that we are talking about maintaining infrastructure, and there's a huge cost to maintaining infrastructure. It's very heavy. It's a huge burden on a city, and for lack of better phrasing, it's just not very sexy. You know, everyone loves building a new bridge, but they don't like repaving that bridge. That just kind of bothers people and is a cost, and the bridge is already working. As Andy pointed out earlier, a lot of what this grant's going to pave and set forth is infrastructure that already exists in our city that has fallen somewhat behind, and it's getting to the point where it's about time to look at fixing these things, but that's a huge cost that we don't want to spend. We don't have the money for it. We want to focus on other things. This grant takes this unsexy, unfun stuff that we don't want to deal with and covers it from our tax money that we've sent to the federal government. I think this is an excellent economic decision for the city to make, and I fully support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Rick Murphy.
Hi, guys. I'm really surprised because the issue I was reacting to with these two motions is giving the city administrator the power to do these kind of things. And to me, that these two items, 10E and 10F, with the earlier item of item 6 or 7, whichever way you want to do it, are the opposite sides of the same coin. Does the board want to do the research and write the grants, or does the board want to use their hirees, such as Carl, Joshua, Michael Means, Chief Danny, okay? Do you want to use those hirees? Do you trust them enough to represent the city of Fort Smith? And if you don't, we got problems. Okay? We got problems. If you're wanting these people to do their job, but you don't trust them to represent what's in the best interest of the citizens of Fort Smith, this is serious. This is a serious rupture. Okay? So, obviously I'm recommending you vote yes for these two issues.
You made it, Rick. Just 17 seconds.
Can I use my time for this?
That's all for 10E.
Okay, thank you. 10F.
Yes, we do have individuals for 10F as well.
Director Von Morton, you have a comment? You're recognized. Question for Chris Huber.
Chris Hoover is our Grants and Government Relations Manager, coming to the podium.
So when this grant was submitted previously, we got a high level recommendation, right? It's on one of the pages you provided to us supplementally, right?
Yes, Director.
And I can't remember the exact term, but it was something like highly recommended.
Yes, Director. So I'm not sure. I know that we're kind of out of order here, and so I wasn't on the regular agenda. So I was wondering if I could read off what I prepared to read to the board.
How long is it? So, well, I mean, do we need all that?
What is it?
It's just an overview of the grant.
Well, you sent us the 65-page application and all the letters, right?
Yes,
we
sir.
read that. I read that. So.
Well, that did come yesterday, right?
No, it came before that.
Okay.
It came last week, I think.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So what you're referring to, Director Morton, is during the last application round.
Last year.
So technically
the one that got turned down, right?
Yes. So we submitted 2 grant applications to this program this year. One was the Butterfield Overland Pedestrian Bridge Project, and the other one was the Bass Freeze Legacy Loop Greenway Initiative. The Butterfield Trail did not score real high, but the Bass Freeze Legacy Loop did. It was rated highly by the senior review team, which means that through their process, we were one of the highest rated applications. Overall, it was named a project of merit, and so there were 213 other applications in this last funding round that were given that designation. Now, I will point out one thing, and I can't remember who mentioned it, but we were talking about the financials and the benefit cost analysis particularly, and when we were on our review, shall I say, with the DOT, they said that our rating, which was rated positive for this project, is a very rare rating that they do give out, or they don't give out a rare rating that much because the BCAs that they see are not sufficient, meaning that this project is going to have a substantial economic impact on the city and the area.
Okay, so what do you think the likelihood that this will be approved is this year? And I realize I'm asking you something that you have no way of really knowing, but just your best guess.
Yes, sir. So if you want me to get really technical, I say that we have a very strong shot for 2 reasons. The first reason is because this was rated as a project of merit, this Bass Freeze Legacy Loop application, they are awarding the DOT is allocating 2 funding periods for this round for the RAISE grant. They're going to be, let me get my words together real quick. They're going to be awarding some projects that were rated as a project of merit on January 13th, and then if we are not selected, we are able to reapply, which is due on January 31st.
Okay.
So this first one, we have to tell the DOT just a simple yes, we want our application to be considered, or no, we don't want it to be reconsidered for a January 13th, possible January 13th award.
Okay, so and as I read the grant, well, I'm just going to have you say this to get it on the record. What is the city's obligation to match funds on this?
It's $0, and that is because the DOT for this grant program specifically classifies the city as a rural, but then also the project area that this grant is in are areas of persistent poverty, and those are census tracts designated by the DOT and the Census Bureau as well.
Okay. Now, the final question. So, would the document that we received appear to be exactly the document that was submitted last year
Yes,
with
sir.
no changes? And you think that'll be okay? Because some of the dates are a little out of whack.
Yes, sir. The DOT, they recognize that, and we are not able to change anything within the application. That's why I said they just
You
need-
think we were under no obligation to change anything, right?
Yeah, we cannot change anything.
Okay, well, again, some of the dates, it refers to
Yes.
something that's planned to be completed in April 24. Obviously, we've already passed April 24.
Yes, and they are taking that into consideration.
Okay, very good. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Director Rigo.
Thank you. And I wanted to speak briefly because, we have people who work in finance up here on the board. We have people who work in IT. We have people who work in engineering. Rare is the time that my work on the professional side of things as a fundraiser, where I get to express some expertise. I spend time in my professional life writing grants, and I think that it's very wise when there is the window to do so, to apply again for something, even when you have not succeeded in the first time, and particularly when you have not been expressly prohibited from applying again. And so, TENI represents, $27.7 million across 2 projects, no local match dollars to fund the 14-mile Bass Reeves Legacy Loop that will connect 8 schools within that 14 miles and put that loop within half a mile of 20 public transit sites. And then it'll also help to complete that connection of the May Branch Trail from the riverfront down to the main branch of the public library. And so I think it would be very wise to support this and once again attempt to bring $27.7 million into our community.
So Director Garriga, I'm going to correct you real quick. You said at the last part there that it was going to connect to May Branch all the way from riverfront. Well, I guess if you're going south, then yes, it will. I'm sorry, I was thinking of the northern action.
No problem. Thank you.
Sorry.
Director Settle.
Thank you, Mayor. Chris, I looked over this. Senator Cotton, Senator Bozeman, Congressman Womack all helped submit this and asked the federal government for this.
Yes, sir.
From the Department of Transportation. You said there's 2 applications, one prior to January 20th and one after January 20th, correct?
Yes. So
Secretary Buttigieg would have part of this, and then potentially Secretary Duffy.
Yes. So if we do not get awarded, if the board says yes tonight and I'm able to submit this, send the DOT a yes, we want our Bass Reeves Legacy Loop reconsidered. If we get selected on January 13th, then we will get these funds. Now, if we do not get selected, then that's when we will have to do a resubmit on January 30th.
Okay. The only suggestion I have is I've traveled Midland Avenue Bridge quite often, especially in the past couple of weeks since my job is now on that side of town. And I do see a lot of people walking on Midland Avenue. Midland Avenue Bridge has walkers. Even with the 1 lane, there's people walking. I would ask, instead of a separate bridge, one thing to consider is a bridge, as a pedestrian walkway attached to Midland Avenue Bridge.
Okay.
To me, that would, instead of building another bridge across the water and have to be high enough for barge traffic, attaching the Midland Avenue Bridge might be an easier way of doing something instead of trying to build a new bridge. So that's a suggestion I have, because there are people that do walk, bike, and use mopeds on Midland Avenue Bridge quite often.
And Director Settle, I will mention, like I said, there are 2 different applications here. One is for the Bass Reeves Legacy Loop, when the other is for the Butterfield Bridge. Now, this is not to actually construct a bridge.
I understand. It's just some design work.
Yes.
And that's the reason I'm stating this to the design group is please look at the option with the RDOT. Is that a possibility of attaching it to Midland Avenue Bridge on the west side?
Okay.
That way it'd be easier to converse traffic instead of adding another bridge that has to go in the water and has to be high enough for barge traffic. I think it'd be easier to attach it to Midland Avenue.
Yes, sir. Now, I will say there has been other grant programs. There is one basically for large bridge projects, but unfortunately, the Midland Avenue Bridge did not rate poorly structurally. It had to be rated poorly. So there's things out there. We just got to.
I think RDOT now, there's been findings they had doing it, him just redoing this. This would kind of match what's happened around Little Rock, North Little Rock with the Broadway Bridge. I think they had a bridge and they added a pedestrian walkway to that. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I just would ask administration to provide this information either with the packet or before the packet is provided. With F, there was nothing. I mean, we kind of had an idea what E was, but with F, there was really nothing. $18.5 million for I don't know what. I'm not really sure what F is for. I've got to have that information ahead of time.
Chris, could you cover that question?
Yes, sir. So Administrator Gefkin did send out an email.
Yesterday, right?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't do me any good.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I will.
And it's not your fault. It just doesn't do me any good.
Yes, sir. So do you want me to list out what these projects are?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so $600,000 for tree and tree well replacement along downtown Garrison Avenue. $4 million for the completion of May Branch Phase 2 of the May Branch Greenway. $6 million for streets and traffic control to complete street work on downtown Rogers Avenue. $3 million for sustainability for commercial property assessed clean energy initiatives. $4.5 million for utilities for lead pipe replacement to help comply with the new EPA lead and copper rules that came down. And then we're writing in $496,250.01 to help hire FTEs that will help with the execution of these projects.
Are these community-driven investments for change grants?
Yes, this is the.
I mean, there's community. I did some research. There's community-driven investments for change, and then there's meaningful engagement of equitable governance. And the way I understand it, equitable governance is the community engagement piece of these grants, and then the community-driven investments for change for the actual projects. That's when I went and looked at the EPA, the Environmental and Climate Justice Community Change Grant Program.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And I was trying to get some kind of information because I didn't really have any. The one thing I will ask. This talked about pollution.
Yes, sir.
This talked about pollution. If I did my research right, it fund community-driven pollution and climate resiliency solutions. To me, that sounds like something that would be perfect for the consent decree. Because pollution, sanitary sewer overflows, those kinds of things.
Yes, sir.
But it looks like none of that is part of what's available for funding.
Exactly. The project, whatever project you have, has to be eligible with what the notice of funding opportunity has. Yeah. So I know that there's been the concern about grants for wastewater work. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of grants out there for large municipalities like ours. There are the state revolving loan fund, but usually I
mean, that's a loan, that's not a grant.
Correct.
Right.
Now, if you are unlike if you are a small municipality that is rural, there are grants galore
for sewer.
And
but for large municipalities, there's grants for water, but not for sewer. Is that a true statement?
I would have to do some more research because there are a lot of programs out there, so I could not definitively tell you that there are not any grants for sewer work. But I think it would also apply to my previous statement where I said that we are a larger municipality and typically we are not eligible for those grants that do provide that.
Well, I would encourage you to look for sewer-related items. I think that's what we talked about. When we met with the EPA, nobody ever said anything about a grant. They all said, oh, there's this loan.
Exactly.
At this % interest rate.
Exactly. And,
I was kind of hopeful that there would be grant opportunities, but there doesn't appear to be. But I would encourage you to uncover those stones. Pollution, this is pollution. We're dealing with pollution, and this would be a perfect opportunity, but
yes,
they don't see it the same way I do.
Yes, I will do my best.
Thank you.
Director Rigo, Director Levon Martin, and then Director Settle.
Never mind, Mayor.
Okay. Levon?
No, I'm fine. All my questions have been answered.
Okay. Director Settle?
I just got two, back to what Director Martin said. We supply water to cities that are rural.
Yes.
I'd like you to use that and try to go that direction for the.
Yes, and we have thought about that. too, but then that brings up the question to the EPA. Okay, let's say, I'll take Arcoma. Arcoma is a good example. You know, the question has been asked, okay, considering that we provide wastewater services, I believe, it's to Arcoma, and Lance can correct me on that. You know, since that crosses state boundaries, are we then able to tap into some of the funding from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, or maybe get other earmark money from that congressional delegation? So those questions are out there and they're being slowly answered, but I definitely say that we could do not a better, but more quickly find those answers, because it's really trying to fit the puzzle pieces together. That's what grants are, and within those puzzles are other puzzles.
When would the grant be awarded on this one, on item F?
There was not a definitive date. They have been doing them on a rolling basis, so I would assume that probably in January, prior to the new administration.
Okay, that's kind of what I was asking, is it prior to the administration change or not?
Yes, sir.
You know, I really think that the one that really hits me hard is the pipe change, the lead and zinc, because that's an EPA mandate, and I think getting money for citizens that have that in there, because 40, 50 years ago, that was acceptable construction, so I think that's a good thing to have, so
yes,
thank you very much.
And I will say, I think there probably will be some funding for that, but then, you know, with the new administration, you never know what's going to happen. Okay. So
thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Director Good.
Thank you, Mayor. Chris, thank you for your information. And actually, the overview that you had, was it about a half a page?
Yes, sir.
Because I'm really curious to know what was on it. And I don't know if any other board members would be interested. Half a page is not going to take you long to read.
I mean, I created one for both grants, so I can read both of them.
Okay. Well, I wanted to thank you for you just spoke to something that opened up me to ask Lance. You were talking about putting the pieces together when we're talking about grants. Lance, if you could you just speak a little bit about, because I know you've talked about grants associated with the consent decree.
Yes, we've been looking at grants, I can say, since 2019, fall of 2019. And our biggest issue with consent decree grants is, and I know we talked a lot about, you know, our financial status, but we really don't qualify. Most of these are for rural areas, and it works great with water, and I'm working with Chris on water to find that. But when you get into a wastewater situation, it's almost to the point where you have to be, your median household income has to be below the poverty limit to get those grants. And that's the state forgiveness loans that they give out, all of those. So we're looking for anything that we can. I will make one more statement, if I may, Director Good, and it's something Director Settle said on the lead line. It's not just lead that may have to be replaced. It may also be galvanized pipe. So it's, you know, stuff that was used for 50, you know, actually hundreds of years. I'm just going to geek out for 1 minute, if I may, Mr. Mayor. Lead's chemical symbol is PB. It used to be called plumbium. That's where we get the term plumber, is the people that fix lead pipes to deliver water were the plumbers. So it's been around that long, and that goes back to the Latin. Sorry, I just had to throw that out. I knew Director Settle would love that.
Good fact. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Director Good, were you?
I am done, but if there's no objection, I would really like to hear Chris's small, short overview.
Both?
You have two?
Yeah, I created one for each grant.
I'm fine. We've been here this long, and we listen to people. It's part of what we do.
Okay, here we go. So, good evening. Before you this evening is a resolution authorizing the city administrator to submit a grant application to the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the Environmental and Climate Justice Community Change Grants Program. Additionally, it will allow the city to enter into an agreement with the Arkansas Advanced Energy Foundation so that they may serve as the community-based organization as required by the eligibility requirements of this grant program. There's a 0% local cost share with this grant program, meaning that this program is entirely funded through the EPA. The total being applied for is $18,596,250.01. This includes $600,000 for Parks and Recreation for tree and tree roll replacement along downtown Garrison Avenue, $4 million for Parks and Recreation to complete May Branch Phase 2 of the May Branch Greenway, $6 million for street and traffic control for complete street work on downtown Rogers Avenue, $3 million for sustainability for commercial properties as clean energy, and $4.5 million for utilities for lead pipe replacement. And finally, $496,250.01 to hire 3 FTEs to help with grant and project management and execution. If awarded, the period of performance will be 3 years with quarterly reporting requirements. So that is number 1. And then number 2. A lot of paperwork here. Okay. Good evening. Before you this evening is a resolution authorizing the city administrator to submit 2 grant applications to the United States Department of Transportation and the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity grant program, previously known as the Better Utilizing Investments to Leverage Development, otherwise known as BUILD, and Transportation Investment Generating Economic Recovery, otherwise known as TIGER, and now the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. The grant program was first created in the 2009 recovery under President Obama and has been subsequently continued throughout the administrations of both President Trump and President Biden, along with multiple Congresses approving funding for this program. Due to the city being considered ruled by the raised grant program and because our targeted projects fall in census tracts designated as areas of persistent poverty, there is a 0% local cost share for this grant program. Application number 1 is the Bass Reeves Legacy Loop Greenway Initiative, which was highly rated and also designated as a project of merit in the 2024 funding cycle. The total being applied for will be $24,987,098. If awarded, grant funds will construct 9.3 miles of bicycle/pedestrian greenway and 8 census tracts within the heart of Fort Smith. Once complete, it will tie into our May Branch system, which will then complete an approximately 14-mile loop within the city. Application number 2 is the Butterfield Overland Trail Pedestrian Bridge Project. The total being applied for is $2,724,600. If awarded, grant funds will be used to complete all the pre-construction activities needed to build the Butterfield Bridge. These tasks include preliminary studies, master planning, bridge design, bridge engineering, a benefit cost analysis, and regulatory coordination, and I stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Were there any other items that we pulled off? Yeah.
We did have some individuals to speak on item 10F as well.
Okay.
Citizen comments or to answer questions?
Citizen comments.
Okay.
That was E.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please.
First will be Joe Elskin.
I think I've said enough, but I did want to say that Dr. Murphy's comment about trusting the people you hired should ring very true with you now listening to Chris Hoover. What a good job he's done. And he gets no benefit other than the benefit to the city of Fort Smith and its people. So thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Next we have Terry Hargrove.
It's me again. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for staying and listening to our comments. I wanted to voice my support and another grant opportunity for our city. Thank you again for staying late tonight.
Thank you.
Next is James Giltz.
Hey guys, Pattern here. So originally I had some stuff to talk about on this, but Director Martin, thank you very much for asking Chris for some clarification. You actually answered a lot of my questions, and thank you, Chris, for answering them. That changed what I wanted to talk about to kind of a rehashing of some of those things that he was talking about are maintaining infrastructure, a cost that we don't want to have to pay, significant burden on taxpayers, 0% taxpayer involvement with that is always a win. But the second thing is the lead pipes, which have been noted. That's not just an issue of legality with the EPA, but there has been mountains of evidence and research since the times that Lance was talking about, where it was standard that lead in pipes has led to very significant deleterious health effects for the people who live with them. Not always. Sometimes people make it out fine, but often people are significantly harmed by lead in their water. And in the modern era, if we can do anything to protect civilians from unknown health effects that are happening with lead or potentially galvanized steel pipes, I'm less familiar with the issues there, I think that's a huge benefit to the civilians. It's not just a matter of economic benefit, but that's a public health issue that we could address by chasing after these grants in a very easy, low-cost way. I fully support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
And last one, Rick Murphy.
Ditto. No, I've been thinking about what I was saying. I didn't understand the wisdom that about trusting. Okay, when we come to a stop sign, we trust that the person is going to wait, or we're going to take turns. Okay, trust is critical. We have to trust the people that we've hired. We trust you to represent our ideas, okay? Please trust the people you have hired to go out and do the job that you don't have time to do, okay? You don't have time to search grants and to go through all the stuff that these guys go through, okay? So let's use their wisdom, let's use their experience, let's use their integrity, okay? They don't get any more money by getting a grant than if they don't get a grant, okay? The only ones who benefit from these grants are us. We're the only ones. There's no personal profit. So let's trust them to do the job that we have hired them to do. Please. Trust is critical in our world. And if we live in fear that somebody's going to screw us. Oh, wow. No. Really wasn't anyone there. I just thought there was. Okay. Thank you very much. And I trust you. Bye.
Madam Clerk?
That's all.
That's all. Okay. This time we'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda items, and number 10 as revised.
Wait.
We didn't revise it, okay. Let me scratch that. A motion to adopt all consent agenda items.
So moved. What, is the clerk trying to say something?
Yes, I believe Administrator Gefkin did send an email. I believe there was a slight change in the dollar amount on item 10F.
Oh, it went up a couple $100, I
Yes.
think, or a couple $1,000.
Right, that's what I thought. So we want to make sure we get it right.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's 2,000.
As revised. As revised is the correct. So motion to adopt all consent agenda items with item number 10F as revised. Need a second, please. Do we get a second?
I will give a second on all items except 10A, which I have to recuse from.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
I'm sorry, who moved? I didn't even catch that.
Director Good.
Okay.
and I think we've heard all citizens' comments. Any further board comments? If not, please call the roll.
Directors George Katsavas?
Yes.
Christina Katsavas?
Yes.
Settle?
Yes.
Martin?
I'm going to abstain on 10C, no on 10F, yes on everything else, due to lack of information.
Rigo?
I vote yes on items 10B through 10I, and I had to recuse myself on 10A, given the fact that I'm an employee of the Arkansas Colleges of Health Education.
Good.
Yes.
Morton?
I am yes on 10B through 10I. I abstain on 10A because I'm on the Board of Trustees of the Arkansas Colleges of Health Education.
Motion passes. I'm not going to split that up, but the motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you. That is from a seasoned clerk. Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to go into the officials forum. We had a great time with all of our veterans. So if you know a veteran, tip your hat. We've got many veterans in this area. But do we have veterans in the audience? Stand up if you're a veteran. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. You're a veteran as well.
Yeah, we're glad to have you in our area. You bring a lot of expertise and knowledge and meaning to our community. Thank you. Director Rigo, any comments?
No, sir.
Director Good.
No comment?
Director LeBon Morton.
I'm sorry to add minutes to the evening, but I first make a motion to add the Utilities Commission discussion to the next regular scheduled meeting of the board.
Second.
That's a motion.
Second.
We got a second.
Wait. You're talking to the next voting meeting?
Yeah, next voting meeting, yeah. December 2nd or whatever, yeah.
December 3rd?
3rd, yeah, whatever, yeah. Okay, and I also, I make a motion to have an executive session at that same meeting to discuss the terms of employment for Mr. Gefkin for the year 2025.
Second.
Okay, and third, and I'm going to open this one up, you know, we didn't really adopt a strategic plan for this year in the years almost over. I would just ask the question of the board, should we just, for the moment, move the 24 plan to be the 25 strategic plan? I think it was a good plan. And then during 25, the board can develop a 26 strategic plan and start on it immediately. So I throw that out for consideration. Number one was blight, which we've done a lot of good work on, more to go.
I think it's a good idea, and maybe the new board, when we convene
Yeah,
in
the new board
January,
can address
we can
it, yeah.
decide if we want to do a quick meeting in
Right.
January, February, and adjust it. But I think your plan is sound.
I would say we do that in the first part of 25.
Yeah, once the election's done.
So we don't do anything, you're going to have a new meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Do we need to take any action on that, Madam Clerk? Okay, thank you. Director George Cassatt.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to, I did some checking on the Hope campus. There were 61 police calls to the Hope campus in a 30-day period. 61 that our officers had to go. It's 2 a day. I'd like to discuss the future of Hope campus. I'm not, they're always full. They can't take anybody in. We're overrun. Other cities are sending their homeless here on the promise that, yeah, they got a Hope campus, they'll take care of you. They get here, you can't, I'm sorry, no room. Something, we need to change something, another culture, some way of a culture on
Are you
this.
talking about the next available study session?
Whenever, I mean.
I'll second your motion.
I just don't want to tie officers up going down there 2 times a day. Yeah.
It's expensive. It's expensive.
Huh?
It's not only that, but it's also EMS. There's a
Well, sure, and then
fire department.
That's not including the fire department.
It's really expensive.
So something tells me something's not right down there.
Not to say there's nothing. I mean, obviously, if folks are in a health emergency, we want to take care of that. But
sure,
it just the visits there are a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, but it's just something for you'd like to discuss it at a study session. Thank you.
Okay. Director Settle. I'm sorry, Director Christina Casavage. You still there?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for joining us this evening, Director Settle. Nothing. Director Neil Martin.
There's some email traffic back and forth today about maybe changing our time for Friday. It's scheduled at 9 a.m. Carl had asked maybe we move it back to 8. Director Christina Katsavis had said couldn't necessarily do 8, but maybe a little bit after that. Do we need to entertain moving that back or keeping it at 9?
I say keep it at 9.
Yeah, nine's fine with me.
You know, we're going to go
Yeah.
3.5 tonight, 3 hours and 20 minutes tonight. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I get tired.
I'll
so.
just tell the board that I have a hard stop Friday night at 5:45.
Well, I mean, I got a hard stop at about 5:20, so I mean, yeah.
So you and I are in
Okay,
agreement.
yeah.
Okay, so
I can go all night.
Let's get the work done.
Well, then in that case, I'll come back.
There we go. There we go. I'm just joking. We don't want to be here all night. Okay, then we'll stay at 9. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. We're going to go to Mr. Dingman. You recognize.
Thank you, Mayor. An item for your calendars, opening night of the 25th annual edition of the Holiday Express event at Creekmore Park will be Monday, December the 2nd at 5:30 p.m. Park staff will provide cookies, candy canes, and hot chocolate for the board of directors and mayor to pass out to the citizens throughout the event. With this being the 25th anniversary, the Parks Department will give out a commemorative ornament to the first 250 families attending on opening night. Following the official lighting of the park, the Grinch will be stationed in the train depot for pictures. Right? Okay, so also don't forget then, it was mentioned already, the Board of Directors budget hearings with the city staff will take place this Friday, November 22nd, here at the Blue Lion, scheduled to start still at 9 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
Then we have no study session next week, November the 26th. City offices will be closed for the holiday, November 28th and 29th. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take a short executive session. The board will convene into executive session specifically to name a person to the Audit Advisory Committee. We're going to reconvene. At this time, I'd like to announce the Audit Advisory Committee, Deanna Infield and Mark Lutz, and the board member assigned will be Director Andre Good. This time, I will ask for a motion to accept all appointment nominations. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Need a second? Second, all in favor? Thank you. This time I entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. All in favor?